Well, a very good evening and welcome to Lord's, the home of cricket under cloudy skies as we get ready for the third and final T20 International as part of this multi-format Women's Ashes series. Henry Moran here as we see the floodlights beaming down and we're almost set for what will be inevitably another thrilling evening. It's been such an entertaining Ashes series so far. England won their first match of the competition in the last game at the Oval in front of a crowd of around about 20,000. We expect a similar number to be here at Lord's, and I can see the pavilion away in the distance, very well populated indeed. The grandstand to my right, the entire bottom tier full out, and indeed those executive boxes full as well. Really entertaining atmosphere already. Just a lovely vibe around the ground as we get ready for the start of this third and final T20. Gets underway in about 10 minutes from now with England winning the toss and electing to have a bowl first. Alex Blackwell, Australia Ashes and World Cup winning captain, is alongside me. And same drill as before, Alex. England have to win.
They have to win. They got the first honours in winning the toss, the first time in this multi-format Ashes series. So they'll be happy with that. And buoyed by beating the Australians, the first time they've done that in any format since February 2020 at the Oval on Wednesday. It was a glorious match, highly entertaining, but they'll know that Australia came close to what would have been their greatest ever run chase in T20 cricket. So England have to be good tonight at the home of cricket to keep the Ashes series alive.
Emily Windsor was part of our team the other night as well at the Oval and is watching on here too. And Emily, it was a real landmark moment, it felt like, for England the other night, winning that game after all of the challenges of playing Australia over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that dressing room is really pumped up and ready to go again today. I think confidence is a massive thing, and a win brings that to a side, a dressing room. And England obviously have that recent momentum coming into this game. But for me, the key point, Australia weren't at their best, particularly in the field in that T20 at the Oval. And knowing from what I've seen from that dressing room, I think they're going to turn that round and be outstanding here today is what I expect from them.
Well, I expect that Elisa Healy, playing her first game at Lord's, will be fired up. This is her opportunity to not only make her Lord's debut, but to lift an Ashes trophy. They won't do it tonight. Even if Australia win, I'm sure they'll wait till the end of the series. But they can wrap up the Ashes tonight in front of 20,000 plus people at the home of cricket. And she sort of rises to those occasions. We've seen her hit a player of the match performance at a full house at the MCG World Cup final. I wouldn't put it past her to do something special tonight.
No, she is a big game player, unquestionably, and I think England will feel they've got slightly the wool over in this series so far. She got a duck in the first innings of the Women's Test match, and then was dropped, be it a hard chance, first ball of the second innings as well. So she avoids the ignominy of getting 4 consecutive ducks in her Test career, but she is sort of player that on a big occasion she can be very, very dangerous. England are gathering at the far end of the ground in their red jerseys with the blue tracksuit bottoms, and we have the England team and Australia team news, both sides unchanged, which keeps things nice and simple. So England with Dunkley and Wyatt to open the batting. Alice Capsey, Nat Sciver-Brunt, Heather Knight the captain. Amy Jones keeps wicket. Danny Gibson plays once again. Sophie Eccleston, who's been outstanding as really expected throughout this series. Sarah Glenn, Charlie Dean and Lauren Bell. So England going with the extra spinner in Dean. As per the last match, Freya Davis was the player that got the opportunity in the first T20 a week ago at Edgbaston, but doesn't get that chance in this game. So that's how England line up. Australia have Beth Mooney, who was in imperious form until she was caught at the deep mid-wicket boundary at the Oval earlier on this week. Elisa Healy, as we mentioned, is the captain and keeper. Talia McGrath, number 1 batter in the world. Ash Gardner, Elise Perry, who very nearly got Australia over the line. 3 sixes were required at the Oval. She didn't quite get hold of the first one, then deposited the next 2 over the boundary for 6, just to remind everyone of the threat of Australia. Grace Harris, who's not quite fired yet. Annabelle Sutherland scored 137 unbeaten in the Test match. Georgia Wareham hit a couple of big sixes the other night. Then Jess Jonathan, Megan Schutt and Darcy Brown. So Australia unchanged as well. That is how the two sides line up, and there's a very special ceremony taking place at the far end of the ground because a legend of English cricket, Catherine Sciver-Brunt, part of our team across this Women's Ashes series, is about to ring the 5-minute bell here at Lord's. see if we can hear that. Maybe a couple of minutes delayed. We can hear it's being announced. Here we go. That's the applause around the ground. There in the distance, in characteristically enthusiastic style, Catherine Sciver-Brunt has the honour of ringing the Lord's bell, and it is an honour. It's one of the traditions. It's a lovely part of playing at this ground. So we're around 5 minutes or so from the start of play, with England winning the toss and bowling first. Is that any of a degree of surprise, Emily, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think on a ground like this, it's a fresh wicket out there. And I think a relatively good playing surface. It's a big playing surface here, but we're slightly to the left, so it's that down the slope. There's a shorter boundary, could potentially be hard to defend at the back end. And I think runs on the board for Australia, I think is a pro for them. I don't know what they would have done at the toss, Alex. I personally think they might have batted first. But look, I think England have the depth in that batting lineup to chase down a total. They've got firepower at the back end. We saw Sophie Ecclestone in that second T20 with a really crucial knock. So I think they're backing that firepower to get them over the line.
I also think the gravity of the occasion, getting out there, bowling first, getting around as a group, and not quite knowing how many is enough. So chasing is probably the preferred. We saw Australia win the toss at the Oval, elect to bowl. They hadn't played a T20 there since the 2009 World Cup, and only Elise Perry was there. So this is unfamiliar territory, getting out here at Lord's and playing a T20 international. There has only ever been one before for women, and that was in the World Cup final in 2009. So I think, given that it's not certain how many is enough, I think send the opposition in.
Yep. The last time England's women walked off the field here at Lord's was thanks to Deepti Sharma's decision to run Charlie Dean out at the non-striker's end. So that was less than a year ago, but it feels like quite a lot has happened since then, one way and another, for this England women's side. And lovely and absolutely right that they should be playing at the home of cricket on a far more regular basis. Phil Long's our scorer. Good evening to you, Phil.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, Alex, I want to ask you, on the Oval, England restricted Beth Mooney to 22 from 25 deliveries. How far did that go to helping England win that game?
That's huge. You can't keep Beth Mooney quiet. She's got this knack of being able to use her crease and carve the ball into space. She's been quite unstoppable, really, in world cricket. You look at the big games, World Cup finals, Com games, gold medal matches. She gets over 50 pretty much every time. So that was huge, Phil. I think tonight, of course, this world-class opening partnership, Healy and Mooney, they had an outstanding power play, 58 off the power play, and what I noticed was that they were cautious in those first 3 overs, and then they went bang, bang, bang in those last 3 of the power play and got themselves up to an impressive total of 58. So huge wickets to take, either of these or both of them from England's point of view.
So we're almost ready for the start of play. The flames are going up and the players are running onto the field. The 2 umpires, Russell Warren, Sue Redfern, have made their way out to the middle. The security guards that have been making sure that pitch stays safe, just trudging to the respective positions on the edge of the boundary. And England look like they'll be turning to Lauren Bell first up. Emily Winter will be speaking to you later on. You, last time you played here, hit the winning runs in the 100 final, playing for the Oval Invincibles. So a ground that you have very fond memories of as well. Right then, in fact, it's not going to be Lauren Bell, it's going to be Charlie Dean. So England opening with spin at the far end of the ground, the pavilion end here at Lord's, as we're almost ready to go. The match officials just making sure everyone's happy. Lisa Healy is marking her guard, and as we stroll down towards the ground from St John's Wood Tube Station, Alex Hartley and I, earlier on, having got the train down from Leeds, Alex, there was a real buzz. It was lovely, a couple of hours ago now, but just a real sense of a big occasion.
Wonderful to see dads and daughters coming down to the ground, everyone in great spirits, for hoping to see an amazing contest, a repeat of the T20 at the Oval. What a game that was. And let's hope it's a really close contest. Down to the last over would be nice.
Indeed, it feels like it's inevitably going to be. Everything seems to be going that way.
Yeah, the highest aggregate between England and Australia in a T20 national. Let's not forget there were 17 wickets as well.
Yeah.
Lots happening.
It was full on entertainment, and we'll hope for the same this evening. Right then, the two fielders outside the circle for England are at long on and deep mid-wicket as we see Healy on strike and Charlie Dean in the sunglasses moving towards us, bowling to Healy. Oh, misfield from Dunkley. It's going to scoot away across the outfield. Hot in pursuit is Nat Siva-Brunt. It's going to be touch and go, but the ball will win the race out towards the ground staff. And it's one of those moments for Sophia Dunkley where you want the ground to swallow you up, because she should have stopped that.
Not a great start for the fielding side, but Healy driving the ball, slashing through covers and getting a sense for how hard she's going to have to hit this ball, because hitting uphill, we're bowling from the pavilion end at the moment.
In comes Dean once again with Healy on strike and working the ball down towards fine leg for 4 more. Loose start from Charlie Dean. First one tossed up, driven through the covers. Next delivery is half tracker that's just helped round the corner, and Australia 8 without loss after just 2 balls.
So Charlie Dean with the field set long on and deep mid-wicket quite straight. Looking to bowl quite full, targeting the off stump, asking Healy to hit down the ground. With the slope, maybe she'll get a bit more turn and bring in those catches.
It's a straighter ball and defended by Healy. That's better. Encouragement from Amy Jones behind the stumps.
Charlie Dean in her sunglasses, you just said, Henry, you're right. But what's going on?
I've noticed, actually, there's some players. I see Izzy Wong in the WPL. She's not out here tonight, but fields in the sunglasses at night.
Dean bowling to Healy, who taps the ball into quite a lot of acreage on the leg side. And Heather Knight, the England captain, runs around from mid-wicket to pick up. 1 taken, 9 without loss. Wasn't there a song about wearing your sunglasses at night? Back in the 80s? I'm sure there was. Get in touch. Hashtag BBC Cricket.
It might just be that routine thing, you know, that the comfort of wearing the sunglasses. Those lights are pretty bright as well. We can see the shadows from the floodlights. There's 4 of them around Beth Mooney, who's taking strike for the first time.
What a player she is. Mid-on and mid-off are up. We've got a deep mid-wicket and a deep cover as in comes Charlie Dean. Round the wicket to bowl to Mooney. Crabbily forward, working the ball towards Lauren Bell, who does well at square leg, just moving to her left. There was just a moment where it looked like it could get awkward, but she does stop it. And 1 ball left of the over with Australia off to a good start here. There's a pair of hair straighteners that have been left in the commentary box. Here comes Charlie Dean bowling to Mooney. Slashed out towards deep cover for 1. End of the over. Mooney on 1. Healy on 9. Australia 10 without loss. I imagine they're Agassiz as you left them.
I like the pattern on them as well.
Yeah, that sort of zebra print. Yeah, I'm trying to think who the most likely...
Al Hartley?
I think, yeah.
Well, there's only a few of us who have to appear on telly tonight. So that would give it away, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think... So you and Alex...
Not even me.
You're not? Okay,
No,
well, it might just be
no.
Alex then. Okay.
No, I'm enjoying myself behind the scenes. I love radio.
Yeah.
You don't have to get here too early for the hair and makeup business.
No. Well, Phil does, because he's incredibly precious about such things. We've got Nat Siva-Brunt, who's going to bowl. I'm a little surprised at this, because we know that she's got this troublesome knee. What is it with England all-rounders and knees? Anyway, she's going to have a bowl from the nursery end with a slip in place, and Beth Mooney, the left-hander, on strike. 2 fielders on the boundary, a square leg and a deep backward point. So England just inviting Mooney, if she's tempted to try and loft the ball down the ground towards us. As in comes Nat Siva, round the wicket now to bowl to Mooney, who sees the ball down the leg side, and umpire Sue Redfern in that rather slow motion fashion stretches the arms out, almost like she's guiding a jumbo jet in to park.
Well, uncharacteristic of Siva-Brunt to bowl the wide, and has to contend with the slope here, coming around the wicket to the left-hand Mooney.
Siva-Brunt, that's a straighter ball down the leg side again. I think that might have just tickled the pads, and it did, so there won't be another on to the total there. 11 without loss. It remains. It feels very sort of humid and steamy, doesn't it? almost you can sense the storms around the country.
Yeah, and that might have contributed to England's decision to have a bowl. They might get a little bit of swing early, noticing Siva Brunt only bowled the 2 overs last game.
Siva Brunt, that's a straighter ball driven by Mooney, straight to Sarah Glenn, who fields on the edge of the circle at the second or third attempt.
And I was a little surprised with the Ashes on the line that Heather didn't go to Nat Siva Brunt in the back end of that game when the pressure was really on. But I guess they're going to have to manage her throughout. It could come down to the very last game to determine the Ashes.
Here is Siva Brunt. Up on her toes is Mooney. Almost as much as anything, just running that ball into space on the offside. No real forcefulness, but it's a nicely played shot for a single towards deep backward point. 12 without loss is the score. I spoke to Elise Perry after play the other night, and she was very... you never get a huge amount. You don't know much in terms of what she's thinking, but there was just a little bit of a sense I felt that she said, okay, well, yeah, it's nice to see England fighting back, but you wait till the next one.
You wait till we bring our best.
Yeah, and they didn't bring their best the other night. Here comes Siva Brunt then bowling to Healy. It's flicked away in the air, but to the left of mid-wicket and to the boundary for 4. Eccleston in pursuit can't get there. It was briefly aerial, but Healy strikes it well enough, and she marches back towards her crease, chewing gum furiously. And will be ready to take strike once again with Australia 16 without loss.
Well, England brought their best ever score in T20 internationals against Australia, and it was just good enough by 3 runs. So 186, the highest they've ever scored. So they know they have to bring their A game to try and beat Australia.
Siva Brunt then bowling with the keeper standing up to the stumps, played back to her and put down. Drop chance, hands on heads, all over the field, with England knowing that should have been the first wicket, and she's normally such a reliable fielder, some of the best hands in the women's game. But on this occasion, the ball is in and then out, and it's a life for Elisa Healy. Should have taken it.
Oh, that's a big drop, isn't it? Elisa Healy.
Siva Brunt bowls. This is slapped back towards her with a cross-batted heave, but on the bounce and stops. There's a smile on the face of the Australia captain. 2 overs gone, 16 without loss.
Yeah, with the Australians in their power play, they hit 42 runs off the last 3 overs. So they were quite cautious at the beginning and getting a sense of the wicket. And both of these players will need to do that. Neither has played at Lords for Australia. So, that they're really getting a sense of that slope. When you're standing there, you do feel like you're almost going to fall over your toes when you're facing down that slope. So it's quite different. So both batters will be thinking, all right, let's just set ourselves. Let's hit the bad ball away, but let's try and rotate and ensure that the back end of this power play, we really do some damage against England.
Well, Lauren Bell's going to have a bowl. She was given the responsibility of the back end of the innings and has a really good slower ball that's being developed. She's bowling to Beth Mooney. That's a pace-on delivery first up, which is hit firmly towards wide at point, and there is no run.
And what we've seen more and more in women's cricket is that the lower order are able to score runs late on. So both teams scored over 60 in their last 5 overs at the Oval. So if top order batsmen are there, or batters are there, apologies, then goodness me, there could be a huge amount of runs late on, couldn't there?
Yeah, I think almost you look at the records of years gone by and you kind of need to park them a little bit. I think we're in a very different world. As Mooney it is, who's advancing, pushing the ball towards cover, and a single is taken. I wonder if that might encourage Amy Jones to put on the helmet and stand up to the stumps, because clear tactic from Beth Mooney to come out of the crease and dance down that track.
Yeah, spot on. I thought easy single, really. She was halfway down almost, just had to bunt the ball into the offside.
And we mentioned it earlier, Beth Mooney 3 from 7 at the moment, but she's happy with that, isn't she? She can score late on.
She doesn't have to go at a huge strike rate, although routinely she's over 120, usually sort of around that 130 by the end. That plays a little bit more of an anchor role, rarely hits sixes, keeps the ball on the ground.
Lauren Bell galloping in, right arm over. This is hit aerially down the ground. Lovely shot from Healy. She's going to get runs here. And actually, while Sophie Eccleston had given up on it, the ball plugs, and it's only 2. She was not enthusiastic about chasing that at all, but the ball seemed to just stick in the surface, and suddenly Eccleston had to get her skates on. 19 without loss.
Yeah, I think Healy thought that was 4. It's going down the hill as well, but it sort of clunked off the bat. Inside half, got a bit of turn in the hands, so didn't get all of it.
I wonder if this outfield is going to be just a little stodgy after the rain earlier on. Here comes Bell, and waiting for a delivery which is quite short. Healy just gently paddles it as much as anything towards Danny Gibson at square leg. 20 without loss.
Well, it's typically a really good draining ground, and you can sort of understand that given this big slope. But I have played in a one-day game here where it was rained off, or I should say hailed off.
Really?
And that's really rare because, you know, as soon as the rain stops, you tend to get out there pretty quick. But the hail, it was like it had snowed.
Really?
It was white.
Here comes Lauren Bell round the wicket to bowl to Mooney, who's advancing forward again, looking for a run. Oh, if Danny Watt had picked that up cleanly, there could have been trouble, but she doesn't. So when was that?
Well, the last ODI was 2013, and we completed that game. I'm struggling with the dates, but I do wonder if you know, back then maybe there wasn't as much enthusiasm to get the women's game on. You know, we didn't have the big crowds sitting here waiting for a game of cricket, so less pressure to sort of execute that game.
Here comes Lauren Bell then, charging in. Oh, good delivery, which just beats the outside edge of Mooney's bat. There was some good carry there from the surface, and some enthusiasm from the England fielders as well. I think every game it feels to me, and we've watched this Women's Ashes series together, Alex, it feels like Lauren Bell is growing as a cricketer, and I don't mean vertically because she's 6'2"
that would
already.
be scary for Australia.
Which would be a thought. But she feels to me like she's getting more and more confident as an international.
Yeah, and I asked Heather Knight at the end of the Oval game the reasoning behind bowling Bell in the penultimate over both T20s that we've had played, and the trust that the captain has in Bell, and what I've seen, and it's been really impressive, is those back of the hand slower balls that she's able to get on target. So yes, taking all the pace off, but it's eventually hitting the stumps when the batter's through their swing. So she's been really impressive at the death as well.
Here comes Charlie Dean now, bowling from the nursery end. Big appeal given. And Alyssa Healy doesn't even think about reviewing that. She got horribly tangled up deep in the crease, and England have the first wicket. Healy goes for 16. That drop from Siva Brunt isn't too costly. And Charlie Dean strikes. That was a delivery which did seem to turn just a little bit, perhaps. And that's the sort of decision for an umpire you don't have to think too long about. It was not just out, it was very out.
Well, Sue Redfern at the Oval had 2 very difficult decisions as third umpire. This one, as on-field umpire, doesn't get any easier than that. Halfway up middle stump, Healy knew it. Well done, Charlie Dean. Massive wicket of Alyssa Healy, the captain, her first game at Lords. She ran the drinks in 2013. And a big wicket for England. It only cost them 3 runs, that drop, the caught and bowled drop from Nat Sivabrunt. They'll be up and about now, the English.
Well, Talia McGrath is going to join the action, the world's number 1 ranked T20 batter. Australia have 5 of the top 10. England have none.
Very quickly, the game you were mentioning that there was rained off here, should we say?
Yeah, I guess you wouldn't stipulate snowed off or hailed off.
It was 14 years ago yesterday. It was July 2009.
Wow. It's going back some distance, isn't it? So Talia McGrath.
Thanks. Yeah. It was a while ago. But, memorable day, even though we didn't take the field. Good lunch here at Lords.
Well, famously.
And big bathtubs.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Special ground.
No wonder players love coming here. Talia McGrath then on strike. Waiting for Dean and driving brutally through the offside. Ooh and an ah from this Lords crowd. 1 run taken. Career best of 91 not out against England in the first match of the Women's Ashes in Australia, the early part of 2022. And I remember that day because there was a real sense when England hit 170 odd. I'll tell you what, they're in this series. And then Talia McGrath knocked them off in about 14 overs. In comes Charlie Dean then, round the wicket to bowl to Mooney, and she's beaten. A little bit of bounce, well taken by Jones. And this has been a really good over from Dean, just the one run from it and the wicket.
Well, she's been more threatening, bowling with her off spin up the slope. Getting a bit of extra bounce there, well taken by Jones.
Mooney waiting and forward very cautiously to work the ball out towards Dunkley at mid-wicket. Australia 22 for 1. McGrath will be on strike with 2 balls left to the over.
So 14 years ago it was a washout, but I did take the field for 2 ODI games. And learning how to play with this slope is actually quite critical.
Dean tosses it up outside the off stump. The crowd roar because they see those bails light up, but it's just the sharp work of Jones behind the stumps and whipping them off rather than anything more threatening to Australia. 22 for 1 still. And
more so around captaincy and your bowling, like which end to bowl the bowlers, and it's not always obvious which end they're going to be successful at.
This is worked away into the offside, and tumbling is Siva Brunt. There could be trouble at the non-strikers end, but McGrath does well to get through for that single. So the over comes to an end. 3 runs and a wicket from it. As Australia 23 for 1 after 4 overs. So go on, tell me more about the matchday experience for a player at Lords.
Say we've got Megan Shute here today, and you'd think, oh, well, she's an in-swing bowler to the right-hander. She might be better off coming from the pavilion end because the slope will assist that in-swing to take it down the wicket. But actually, if she bowls at the media centre end, she's getting her in-swing, and then it hits the pitch and then it straightens. Yeah. So she's sort of more threatening in some ways. Whereas, if you face her coming down the slope, it's only really going to go that way. So, I only played 2 out of the 3 scheduled games here because of that washout. But you sort of have to adjust very quickly.
Here comes Lauren Bell then, her second over, bowling to McGrath, who's forward, thinks about unwinding something unpleasant, but in the end just defends it back down the ground.
Alex Blackwell, 54 not out in that game in 2011. Notice second time, run out Shrubsole.
I ran.
No, you were run out by Anya Shrubsole in the.
On the 50.
No, on the
other one. No, because I do recall being not out 50, hit the winning runs, won a game against England at Lords, and walked through the members, and they stood and applauded, and I thought, wow, I've made it.
Lauren Bell outside the off stump and slashed away for 4. Not a great ball that, and it was a bit of a freebie for McGrath just to free the hands and pick up a boundary. Australia 27 for 1. I mean, that's a sort of bucket list moment for a cricketer, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a fairly traditional members crowd at that time, so I don't know what year that was, Phil. So the 2009 was the washout. 2013 was the run-out Shrubsole.
That's right. And 2011 was
2011 was my 50. So 1 good out of the 3.
You take that, though, don't you?
And it was a real pleasure to having entertained the members.
Short delivery from Bell, left alone by McGrath, ducking out of the way.
Yeah, 54 not out of 68 balls, 8 fours.
No 6s.
Well batted.
Thank you so much. It was a special day. And to any time to beat England, but at Lords.
Yeah, that's pretty much, particularly in the men's game. The way a series goes is the visiting team does tend to beat England at Lords. I mean, statistics really do say that. In comes Lauren Bell then, bowling a ball which is flashed at by McGrath, missed. If you go down the history books, but since the 1800s, out of 33 men's Ashes Test matches played at Lords, how many do you think England have won?
33 played.
Between
12?
3.
Oh.
Just 3.
Wow. That's astonishing.
1930.
Bit of weather interrupting some of those.
No. Here comes Bell bowling. Oh, inside half of the bat from McGrath, who thinks about a single that isn't there. No, it wasn't the weather. It was the general incompetence of the England side, I think.
So, okay, so they won 3 out of, how many did you say?
33.
And then they lost how many? How many draws?
I think there was 18 defeats.
Okay. All right. That's very lopsided.
I think teams raise their game coming to Lords. I think there's just a bit of a sort of, right, well, here we go, we're at Lords. Right, we're going to absolutely give it some.
Even the England players tonight, they haven't played much cricket here. And it's great to see the ECB commit to more cricket over the next 8 years.
Bell bowling to McGrath, who mistimes a drive. It goes on the bounce to Lauren Bell, and the crowd think it might be a catch. It's not, but it is the end of the first 5 overs. 27 for 1 is the score, with Australia having been asked to bat first by England. The 1 wicket, that of Elisa Healy, bowled, LBW I should say, to Charlie Dean for 16. Right, Alex Blackwell, I'm going to get out of the way, and Emily Windsor is going to take up commentary.
Yeah, that commitment by the ECB, women's cricket for England will be played here at Lords over the next 8 seasons, and the first ever women's test will be played here in 2026. So that'll be the next home Ashes for England, which will be a very special occasion.
Yeah, absolutely massive. Charlie Dean to continue. Bowles advances, and that's hit to mid-on. Will be no run. Sophie Eccleston does the fielding. Yeah, that to me just feels a massive landmark in the women's game, doesn't it? And it shows you the journey and how far it's really come.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like too big a deal. A couple of games each year.
Dean in bowls down the leg side, swept beautifully by Mooney. Lauren Bell dives in the ring, but she gets nothing on it, and it races for 4. She's on 8 now. 31 for 1 Australia.
When you look at the history of women's cricket at Lords, so Rachel Hayhoe-Flint advocated for the first ever women's game here in 1976, and they came through the side gate because they weren't sure if they'd be welcomed through the long room. But only 18 women's internationals has been played since then in the last 47 years.
Dean in again. That's hit hard down the ground. That was a sharp chance. Hit hard at her. Dean gets a hand to it and puts Mooney down. I think she did well to get a hand to it there or get out the way of it. It was hit that hard. But Beth Mooney is dropped on 8.
Very difficult chance. You can even see Sue Redfern, the umpire, ducking away. That was struck very firmly. Mooney being tied down 2 games in a row. So 8 of 14, giving a half chance there. Would you say that was a half chance? It was pretty tough.
Yeah, it was pretty tough. Charlie Dean's one of the best fielders in the England circuit off her own bowling generally. I play alongside her at the Southern Vipers, and she pulls off some incredible stops. I think she will be disappointed she's not caught that. But that was hit so hard by Mooney. Dean coming round the wicket in again. Bowles advances and hits up to long off. Will just be a single. Mooney to 9, 32 for 1 Australia.
And Dean in the power play, not unexpected. This is what she normally does. I mean, I'm thinking 3 overs she's bowling in the power play tonight, and it's probably because of Mooney, because of the premier left-hand bat in Australia is the opener.
Yeah, I think actually at domestic level she doesn't tend to bowl that many overs in the power play. You tend to sort of creep 1 in. As Dean in over the wicket advances McGrath, and that's over the top of mid-off. 1 bounce 4. She races on to 10, and the score 36 for 1.
Well, it's a pretty quiet power play from the Australians' point of view. They did hit 58 at the Oval, no wickets down. They've lost Healy, and Mooney's just been pegged down by the off-spin of Charlie Dean. It's been terrific bowling. We've seen her from both ends, seemingly preferring the media centre end.
And again, Bowles advances and tries to hit through a wall of backward point fielders, but she can't do it. So that's the end of the power play. 36 for 1 Australia. And where do you see that, Alex Blackwell?
It's a runner ball, isn't it? It's disappointing for Australia, and I think well played to England. I think they're getting their matchups right here. I think in particular Charlie Dean to Mooney has been a real success for England.
Yeah, just as a comparison, in the first T20 at Edgbaston, England 36 for 2 at the end of the power play. Went on to make 153.
Yeah, I think for me as well, I don't know whether in the back of Heather Knight's mind would be how Charlie Dean bowled towards the back end of the game. Obviously, it is a match-up against a left-hander of Mooney, but we saw her, I think, bowl 3 pretty tidy overs. I'm sure Phil can come back to us on that, in that second T20, and then her last over was very, very expensive. Georgia Wareham hit her for consecutive 6s, so whether Heather Knight wants to use her early, get those overs out the way, because they have the likes of Sophie Eccleston at the death.
Yeah, she went for 22 in her first 3 overs and 19 in her last over that day.
Danny Gibson then coming into the attack. It's just her 3rd international game for England, but she would have played here for London Spirit as Gibson in bowls, and that's hit over the offside. There's a cover fielder out there, Nat Sivabrunt. So Mooney just takes a single. She moves to 10, 37 for 1. And actually on that, I think, because probably a lot of these England players have actually played at Lords in the 100, and some atmospheres in the 100 are pretty spectacular. So actually maybe the occasion of obviously an international game at Lords is something different to domestic cricket. But Danny Gibson here at the top of her mark has actually played here before.
In front of a big crowd.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gibson in, and that's hit to mid-off. Will be no runs. Pace off. 37 for 1 Australia.
So I think what you're trying to say is that maybe the Australians could be more overawed by this occasion than England, even though Australia have been world champions playing in front of a home crowd at the MCG T20 World Cup 2020. There's something special about playing at Lords.
Gibson in, and that's hit over the top. The cry, catch it. Danny Wyatt takes the catch. Sorry, correction, that's Alice Capsey there. That looked like it was going miles, but McGrath has not timed that at all. And that's a pretty soft dismissal from her. 37 for 2 Australia.
Well, that's the 2nd international wicket for Danny Gibson. She got Beth Mooney in the T20 at the Oval, and now she gets the number 1 ranked T20 batter in the world. How about that? Well played, Gibson.
Yeah, and Gibson here, she tends to take pace off the ball, but she also can skid it through. And we were actually saying off air in the other room how we think Gibson could be quite useful on this pitch, and she'd be used to the slope. It's London Spirit's home ground here at Lords. She'll be very happy with that one, will Danny Gibson. She's really taken to international cricket with the ball. Love this opportunity against Australia in this Ashes series. Looks like strong words here between Beth Mooney and Ash Gardner as she comes to the crease. Beth Mooney's got a lot to say here, Alex Blackwell.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, Ash Gardner, world-class all-rounder. We've known her for the power hitting. She's so destructive with the bat, but she got the greatest ever figures for an Australian bowler in Test cricket. Player of the match at Trent Bridge. Magnificent. 12 wickets for the game. So her off-spin bowling has really come through. 9 off 8 the last innings. What can she do tonight?
Gibson right arm over, worked nicely off Gardner's pads. She's off the mark, first ball. 38 for 2 Australia. The 2 wickets to fall. The Australian captain Alyssa Healy and the number 1 batter in the world, McGrath. England will be very happy with the start so far.
I wonder if there's been a reassessment from Australia, Alex, and if you agree, it's not a 180 pitch. Do you think that?
Yep. Gibson coming around the wicket to the left-handed Mooney bowls, and that's pushed to a backward a point. Charlie Dean sliding, does the fielding. They come through for a single. Mooney to 11, 39 for 2. England's fielding's been impressive today so far. And that ground fielding, which makes all the difference.
Well, I think the conditions are completely different from the Oval. There's a little bit of swing about. There's some seam movement. The slope is assisting.
Gibson in, and that's played to mid-wicket. Will be no run. Shy at the stumps from Heather Knight. Gardner was safely in her crease. So that's the end of the over. 7 overs gone, 39 for 2. Alex Blackwell, Australian international, on many of Ashes series and World Cups, leaves us, and we'll be joined by World Cup winner Alex Hartley. I think on that total, I think domestic cricket here that has been played, it tends to be a lower scoring ground. So I don't think Australia should be too disheartened by this start.
No, and the 100, the average score was about 100. I think it was like 105 or something like that in the women's game. The men's game was only about 125. So it is a low-scoring white ball ground, or has been over the last couple of years. So, yeah, I think Australia, if they can get up to that 150, 155, 160 at a push, it is parity.
Sarah Glenn coming into the attack from the media centre end. A deep square leg, a deep mid-wicket. Long on and deep cover. The slope aiding her spin. As she's in, that's hit into the onside. Nat Sivers out there. It's going to be 1 bounce 4. Timed nicely that by Beth Mooney. Score moves to 43 for 2, and Mooney's on 15 off 18 balls.
Yeah, it's time for Mooney to accelerate now, isn't it? She's got herself in. Sarah Glenn, not a massive turner of the ball, so she'll know that she can play across the line. If it is to turn, it's to turn into her down the slope.
Glenn in again, swept, but misses. That'll be down the leg side, taken well by Amy Jones. A wide ball is called. It's a pretty even playing surface, but that slope makes that boundary on that leg side a little shorter as Mooney hits that same pocket. 1 bounce 4 again between a long on and mid wicket. She is being more aggressive here to Sarah Glenn. Mooney's on to 19, 48 for 2.
Just an area that Australia will have reflected on the previous game. Someone that they can look to put a bit more pressure on is Sarah Glenn. As I just said, the ball, especially to the left-hander, will be going down the slope. Mooney uses her feet really nicely there to get to the pitch of the ball. The Siverbrunt has actually now come slightly straighter to make that pocket smaller. So if Mooney's to find that pocket on the leg side, it's now square of the wicket.
Glenn looks as though she's coming over the wicket now to Beth Mooney. There's still a deep cover in play on that offside as she's in again. She hits hard down the ground, mid-offs inside the circle. And that's going to be 4 more to Beth Mooney. Expensive over so far, this from Glenn. 52 for 2 Australia. Mooney has just found herself to 23 very quickly.
Yeah, great shot that, Beth Mooney. Fantastic manipulation of the field. 2 shots into the leg side this time. Down the ground. So now which? England have to bring their cover in, put their mid-off out. So now Mooney, you have to think as a batter, she'll be looking to target that offside.
Glenn, right arm over in, that's on her pads and worked into the onside. Clever batting from Beth Mooney, as we often see from the Australian. She's off strike now. She's on to 24, 53 for 2. How much is it, Alex, a challenge here when there's a left-hand, right-hand partnership defending that slope that goes down that side? Because usually you'd see probably spinners bowling from this end, hitting up the slope, right-handed batter. But when you've got a left-handed player in, as Glenn in bowls, and that's cut into the offside gaps, Nat Siverbrunt has work to do. They're going to come back for 2. Good running by Australia. Gardner moves to 3 and 55 for 2.
It is difficult. It just unsettles you as a bowler because you have to keep constantly adjusting your lines and your lengths, and you can't settle into your spell. And especially as a spinner, you want to settle in, you want to feel comfortable.
Glenn from the media centre and in bowls, and that's pushed back to her, so that'll be a dot ball to finish the over. 8 overs gone, 55 for 2 Australia.
Yeah, expensive over there for Sarah Glenn. 16 runs coming off her first over. And Beth Mooney in particular, fantastic there. 3 fours in the over. Just puts pressure on England here. That run rate now up and above 6 runs and over, just below 7.
Sophie Eccleston coming into the attack though. She's got a match-up, hasn't she, to Ash Gardner.
Yeah, this is where the game could change, isn't it? 1 wicket here for Eccleston. But equally, the Australians, they play Eccleston so well. They're aggressive against her.
Just changing her field. It is the left-handed Mooney on strike. They're going to have a deep extra cover, a deep long on, a deep mid-wicket and a deep square leg. To Beth Mooney now hitting up the slope. And listen to that applause for Sophie Eccleston. What an unbelievable player she is. She's bowling from that pavilion end, a pavilion full of people. As Eccleston in bowls, and that's worked into the onside. She's hit that softly to try and get 2. They're going to think about it. They settle for 1. Clever batting again from Mooney. Great intent. She's on to 25.56 for 2 Australia.
England won't mind that. Now Sophie Eccleston bowling from the pavilion end, so the ball will skid on towards Ash Gardner, and if it does turn, it will probably just hold in the surface with the slope. It won't turn sharply. Gardner will have to be careful of the LBW here.
All the fielders out in front, the bat square leg up, as that's in, and that's hit to that square leg fielder. Charlie Dean diving inside the circle, does well there, and Gardner will feel like she's missed out.
Yeah, she got away with that one. Ash Gardner, a full bunger from Eccleston, just clubbed to Charlie Dean at square leg.
Eccleston just having a conversation with the captain, Heather Knight, about where she wants those fielders. She's going to bring another fielder over to the onside.
Yeah, I like that. You've got to plug that mid-wicket. Don't make it easy for the Australians to rotate the strike.
Just 4 fielders on the offside to right-handed Gardner. There's Eccleston round the wicket. Bowls, that's a leading edge over extra cover. Gardner's trying to work it onto the onside. Falls safely and she comes through for a single. She's on to 4.57 for 2. It's very unusual, that field now, Alex, with Eccleston to a right-hander turning it away from the bat.
Because she's going down the slope, so the ball will be skidding on down the slope.
Eccleston over the wicket to Mooney, advances, hits over mid-off's head, and that's 1 bounce 4 again. Mooney's on a mission here. She moves to 29.61 for 2 Australia.
Oh, she looks like she means business as well. Not even a smile on her face with that shot. Exceptional shot up and over mid-off against the world's #1 bowler. There's nothing Eccleston could have done about that one. It was just a fantastic cricket shot.
A little hum in the air as Eccleston in bowls, and that's pushed into the onside. She's not timed it. They're going to think about 2. Danny White is so quick from that boundary rope and keeps it to a single. Mooney moves to 30, 62 for 2. And that left hand, right hand, you see all the fielders now. It looks really chaotic when you look at the ground here. Sophia Dunkley's almost running the whole pitch length to get to a mid-wicket. There's Eccleston into Gardner, and that's played into the onside. Dean in square leg inside the circle does the fielding. Another dot ball. Gardner's under pressure here. She's on 4 off 7. 9 overs gone, 62 for 2.
Just shows how important boundaries are in T20 cricket. That boundary makes 7 off the over. Had Australia have just knocked Eccleston into the offside, that over could quite easily have just gone for 4 or 5, but instead you get 7 runs off the over against the world's best, and Australia would definitely take that.
That's Siva Brunt coming back into the attack.
England have to find a way here just to slow Beth Mooney down, whether it's you keep her off strike, you bowl at the new batter Ash Gardner. She's 4 off 7 deliveries. Beth Mooney 30 off 24, I think that just said.
So we're going to see some seam from the media centre end. The applause for Nat Siva Brunt, who comes onto the screen. England's best all-rounder, the world's best all-rounder. She comes in, bowls, and that's on the onside. Worked out to Sophia Dunkley at deep square leg. Will just be a single. And England won't mind that. Beth Mooney now at the non-striker's end. 63 for 2 Australia. I feel like a wicket's important here for England.
Yeah, I'd also love England to have a mid-wicket here. Just stop that easy single. Ash Gardner now can just get Beth Mooney on strike, who's striking the ball nicely now she's got herself in. I'd love a mid-wicket to stop that easy single into the onside.
As Siva Brunt in. Shorter ball pulled into the onside. A cry of catch it. Danny Wyatt's running in but can't get there. Ash Gardner just gets a single. She's on 5 off 8 now. 64 for 2. Good option, short ball from Nat Siva Brunt there.
Yeah, you know that she's going to take it on. You know she's going to be that aggressive batter. Didn't quite get hold of it, which is why it didn't carry to Wyatt.
Siva Brunt round the wicket. That's down the leg side. She's aiming for that with this onside field. Lauren Bell does the fielding at deep fine leg. Mooney now onto 31.65 for 2 Australia. Floodlights are on overhead. Cloud up in the sky. No rain, thankfully, here at Lord's.
We had a belter of a day in the second T20 at the Oval on Wednesday. England just managing to get over the line. And you had a belter of a game yesterday.
2-6-2 plays 2-6-2 in an ODI game, a draw.
That's the second tie that my team have had this summer, Lancashire Thunder.
They did very well, I tell you that, as Siva Brunt in bowls. That's down the leg side. That's hit her on the pad, so it will be a dot ball. That's so unusual, 2 ties in an ODI.
Oh, I know. I've played for the Thunder for a few years now. We tied 1 last year. We've tied 2 this year. We tied 1 in the KSL the year before. Honestly, we're cursed.
Siva Brunt into Gardner. That's a slower delivery, but played well. Out to the deep cover fielder, Sophia Dunkley running in there and keeps it to a single. Gardner on to 6, 66 for 2. Hopefully we won't be seeing any draws here. Must-win game for England to keep their Ashes dreams alive. Every game's a must-win game.
Yeah, underdogs England for this Ashes, and they really are now.
Siva Brunt to the left-handed Mooney. She's gone for a paddle bowler! And that's Siva Brunt with the big wicket of Beth Mooney. She's got to go for 32. Australia now 66 for 3.
Strange shot from Beth Mooney, who was striking the ball so well, playing nicely down the ground. She's just looking to manipulate the field, looking for that boundary. Gets into position early. It's a slower ball from Siva Brunt, takes the pace off. Mooney is in no position at all to play that delivery, and it just hits the top of middle stump. England needed that. They needed that breakthrough.
For me, that was bizarre, Alex Hulley. I don't think I've ever seen Beth Mooney play that shot.
No, and that's the pressure that England had built, Nat Siva Brunt had built on Beth Mooney. She felt like she had to do something different.
As the England players take a drink there, we'll have a change in the commentary box. You'll be joined by Melissa Story shortly.
Well, Elise Perry in the previous game very, very nearly got Australia over the line. They needed 3 sixes, to win the game. She went 2-6-6, and England won by 3 runs. So a crucial knock in the previous game wasn't quite good enough, but you know Elise Perry, she'll have that bit between her teeth now.
Hello, Alex. She certainly will, and it strikes me of that interview Elise Perry gave over the winter, or maybe in the build-up to the Ashes, where they were speaking about run-outs at the non-striker's end, and she simply said the line, if you're going to do it against England. So I feel like she's a player who likes to bring out the big performances. Against England, she thrives in this rivalry.
I've just been watching her warm up to bat down on the boundary edge just before I went out to see a few of the England girls, and her warm up is the coach underarms a ball at her. She has her pads on and she moves her feet back and forward and catches the ball on the full. So she wasn't hitting balls. The coach was tossing underarms at her and she was moving her feet as quick as she could and trying to catch the ball before it bounced. So using that to try and get her feet moving.
Australia 66 for 3 at the halfway stage. Of course, as Emily Windsor mentioned, important game for England, not only in keeping this Ashes series alive, but if England win, they could be the first side to win a series against Australian women since 2017.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Wouldn't that be a big moment?
It'd be a huge moment.
It will bring new batter to the middle, who'll be facing Danny Gibson. Just waiting on confirmation who we've got out there.
Perry's at the
Oh,
end.
it is Elise Perry, isn't it? We've just discussed that.
You obviously weren't listening to me.
I cling on to every word you say, Alex. What an allegation. Danny Gibson just having a few words with Heaven Knight at extra cover, as there always is when a wicket falls, a very unnecessary pause in play. Ash Gardner taking her time as Gibson charging in towards us, comes past the umpire, bowls a straight delivery, looking to pull and getting hit on the thigh pad in the end as Gardner. And
now, is that Charlie Dean? Charlie Dean at square leg has thrown the ball at the stumps. She shied at the stumps because Elise Perry was out of her crease, but it's hit Danny Gibson.
That was a violently quick throw-in as well. I'm sure we're probably about to see a replay as poor Danny Gibson working hard.
Elise Perry dropped her bat at the
As Gibson's bowling, it's swung away far into the onside. Fielder coming round, but no avail as the ball soars over the boundary rope. 6 runs to Ashley Gardner, who until then looked like she was just struggling a bit. She was 6 off 11. Now brings that strike rate up to 100. Australia 72 for 3.
So Charlie Dean shied at the stumps because Elise Perry had dropped her bat at the non-striker's end, but hit her teammate.
Gibson looking to reply to that one. Bowls outside the off stump, having a big waft does Gardner as it goes through to Jones. It's a dot ball. You said a little earlier, Alex, that you went down before the game to see a few of your old teammates, some of your current teammates. Now, you're wearing a very bright outfit today. Quite a bright orange t-shirt, which makes you quite noticeable on the pitch. As Gibson's bowling, stepping into the offside, heaving the ball onto the onside for 4. Gardner just piercing the field here. Expert placement. And that's Siva Brunt, who's so good in the deep, can't get round. It's another boundary, 76 for 3 Australia. Good use of the crease there. So, you're wearing a very bright colour. You stand out quite a lot. It's not a great colour to wear when you're apparently illegally trespassing out on the pitch. What do you have to say for yourself?
I shouldn't have worn orange.
Shouldn't have worn orange, and there was something you were meant to wear, as outside the off stump. Pace taken off it this time and driven to extra cover. Allows Australia to run through for a quick single. Progresses the score on to 77 for 3.
Yeah, I was meant to put my bib on, but I didn't think I needed to because I was doing TV, so I didn't put it on.
I think as well, even though we appreciate the importance of wearing those lovely red bibs, you can't mix a red bib with an orange top because
it would just be a colour clash, wouldn't it?
It would be a crime against fashion, not only a crime against trespassing.
Anyway, I've had a slap on the wrist and I apologised.
Very good so. Gibson bowling inside line, and Perry facing her first delivery, uses her feet, comes down the pitch, and maybe there was still thinking about those warm-ups she was doing where she was catching the ball. She doesn't make contact, end of the over. And Australia 77 for 3 after 11. Ash Gardner on 17, and Elise Perry yet to get off the mark.
11 runs coming off that over. Was that Australia's most expensive over of the innings, Phil?
No, Sarah Glenn's first over went for 16.
Oh, of course it did.
It almost felt in that Sarah Glenn over that her bowling to the left-hander didn't quite have that same effect as Mooney was just... She had that conviction just to be able to clear that front leg.
Yeah, 2 right-handers now for Sarah Glenn to bowl out if she comes back into the attack.
I just think it's maybe a bit of a better matchup, and she's done well in both the games so far. Picked up 2 wickets at Edgbaston last Saturday and another 2 at Oval on Wednesday. She'll want to open the account tonight. She's bowling to Gardner, who firmly drives that one down the ground and almost goes for 4. In fact, I think it has. Down there on the boundary, Alice Capsey, sprawling dive, probably should have just kept that one in, and in the end it's one of those unfortunate ones where the ball parried and just dribbled into the boundary cushion.
Yeah, Alice Capsey, she actually did a brilliant dive to stop the ball, full length dive, and it just trickles back onto the boundary sponge. And Sophie Eccleston and Alice Capsey just share a little laugh. Tweedledee and Tweedledum down there, and 2 best mates.
Well, they're such close friends that they even share a joint social media account.
It's such an ick.
Glenn bowling to Gardner, who flicks the ball off her pads out to Cow. She picks up a single for it, 82 for 3.
To be fair, I actually can't comment because me and Crossy technically share an Instagram with the No Balls Instagram, but at least that's for marketing purposes.
And of course, you can listen to No Balls on BBC Sounds.
We're podcasting tomorrow to wrap up the T20 series.
There we go. No Balls fans, keep an eye out for that one. As Glenn, flatter delivery, giving herself room and cutting to short third. Scamper through for a quick single. There's almost that fielding position where short third and point are within the vicinity of just touching fingertips if they reach their arms out.
Yeah, it's a great diving stop from Charlie Dean.
Glenn past the umpire. Again attempting to late cut that shot as Gardner misses out and Good take from Jones behind the stumps. Charlie Dean is a fielder who probably spends more time on the floor than she does stood up. She loves an excuse to pull out a tumbling dive. Coming down the wicket, slapping the ball firmly into the hands of Alice Capsey on the bounce. And in the end, Gardner just having to slide her bat in a little bit quicker than she expected at the non-striker's end. Moves the score on to 84 for 3. Australia going along at a run rate of 7.1. That delivery there from Glenn, not bouncing as much, and Perry can't beat Heather Knight at extra cover. Completes the over, 84 for 3 off 12.
Great comeback over there for Sarah Glenn. 6 runs coming off that one. 16 off her first. Despite the boundary, first ball of the over. She came back really nicely there. As I'm trying to figure out from Phil's scorecard how it works. He's got 4-1, a big gap, a dot and a 1. You're going to have to explain that to me, Phil.
Have you ever scored?
Yeah, I used to get paid to score actually as a kid. But cleverly I took along my friend who would do the actual writing down, and we'd split the money and I'd do the scoreboard and just do the clicker. The old school.
What was the split? Was this 50-50?
Yeah, obviously.
The scoreboard's a lot more fun, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd do the fun bit. He'd do the hard work.
I've got a few questions about the scoreboard as well, because of course there's different types, and that determines how fun it is. As Eccleston is coming into the attack from the pavilion end, bowling to Garner, who wristily works the ball off her pads out to deep mid-wicket. He's running round to her left. Runs a single, does Australia. Moves the score into 85 for 3. Because, of course, you've got the ones where you have to manually put up the letters. And then you've got the ones where you get to pull that almost big lever on the side. It makes that great clunk sound as the letters and numbers change. This time flicked square of the wicket by Perry out to Dunkley at deep square. And a wayward throw into Jones beats her in the end. But it's not costly for England. Another single taken.
I'd only ever do the lever.
Only the lever?
Yeah.
Not even
I'm not trying to find all the square things and numbers and putting them out. No, just the levers.
What about the fiddly one where you have to flip certain lines? It's a bit harder. Straighter from Eccleston and pushed past her on the back foot by Gardner. Eccleston trying to field off her own bowling there, but the ball just slightly too wide for her. Another single taken, 87 for 3.
No, I knew all the scoreboards around the country to avoid and just did the fun ones.
You should write a book on this.
It'd be very boring.
Well, it would, but there's always a niche market for stuff like this. As Eccleston in the block hole and casually just pushed down the ground by Perry. She picks up another single, moves on to 3. 88 for 3, Australia. See, I'm always the kind of player who tries to avoid the scoreboard, tries to avoid scoring, tries to avoid umpiring, and now and again I'll push the sight screen backwards and forwards. It's my contribution. Slapped in the air, but past the fielder at extra cover. No real chance there for Heather Knight. Put her whole body into trying to stop that ball, but in the end brings up a boundary. And Gardner, the dangerous Gardner, who at first just looked like she was struggling out there, is just getting to know the pace of this wicket. And I think one thing which is standing out is her free use of the crease here, opening up those angles. As Eccleston from behind the umpire bowls a flatter delivery, swung away in the air, chance of a catch, put down. It was a difficult chance for Nat Siver-Brunt. Deep mid-wicket boundary. But when you're playing against teams such as Australia and players like Ash Gardner, you've got to take those chances. The end of the 13th over. Australia 94 for 3. And
well, that's a great chance. That's a great dive from Siver-Brunt. She actually caught it, full length dive forward, running round to her left hand side. Had it in her hands, and as she hit the floor, it just came out, hit with brute force from Ash Gardner. That's a tough chance, and England, they all applaud her for the effort. It just didn't stick.
And it is one of those ones where the elbows hit the turf and you've got to almost grip on the ball that little bit harder. But then you look at the last few T20s and the likes of Wareham and Sutherland from Australia just spring to mind, where they've taken similar catches diving forwards. And
yeah, one of the best fielders in the world, Siver-Brunt. I think if she's dropping it, most people are.
And of course the ball saving the boundary at least. Always got to look on the bright side of life. Nat Sciver-Brunt is into the attack, bowling at Perry, who's just pulling this in the air, but with no real timing behind it. Dribbles out into the onside, and fielder runs in from Cow to field. Single taken, 95 for 3. Just heard that there's a couple spots of rain out there in the crowd.
Just ignore that message you've just got, please. Thank you. It's not raining.
For anyone who heard those last 10 seconds of radio, no, you didn't. It's glorious out there. Sciver-Brunt back of a length, pulled but not timed by Gardner. Finds the fielder at deep square.
There is a dark cloud above us, isn't there? But it should just pass through.
Yeah, dark cloud, no umbrellas. Umbrellas is always the key, isn't it? It's looking good.
You be on umbrella watch, Phil. We'll keep you on that. 'Cause it's not like you're scoring the entire game at the same time.
I'm always on umbrella watch.
Sciver-Brunt just started her run up there, but has to go back to the top of her mark. She's in now. Full ball and guided to short third. Looking for that cheeky single to beat the inner ring. But not quite enough pace on the ball there for Perry, who's 4 off 7. I guess one thing you could say about these Australian players, Alex, is that some of them do just take their time to get in, which I guess is something you could look at this England team and say, could they just be doing this a bit more, particularly with those middle order collapses we've seen for England recently. As long as you're able to catch up later on in your innings, as driving to long on, a wide long on is Perry. Picks up a single, score moves to 97 for 3.
There's actually been a huge work on of Elise Perry's, trying to pick up that strike rate, pick up the run rate, get herself finding the boundary early on in her innings. She found herself out of this T20 side because of that. She's had to reinvent her game and pick things up.
Sciver-Brunt over the wicket. Short ball, well taken from Jones, and she's got her stumped. Gardner goes. Fantastic bit of glove work from Amy Jones. So difficult, stood up to the stumps, taking a shorter delivery from Sciver-Brunt, up by her shoulders, whipping off the bails, and Gardner goes for 32. A big wicket for England and Australia. 97 for 4.
Amy Jones, that is absolutely outstanding. An outstanding piece of wicket keeping. Short ball, bouncer from Sciver-Brunt. Amy Jones takes it above her head. Gardner out of the crease. She brings the ball down and stumps Gardner. Amy Jones has made that look easy, but I'm telling you now, that is a remarkable bit of wicket keeping.
And really similar to a bit of wicket keeping we've seen recently in the Rachel Harry Flint Trophy. Your teammate Ellie Threlkeld, who did a brilliant take as well, which probably even bounced higher than that one. And, you know, to be stood up to the stumps with such little reaction time, and actually, of course, having the batter in front of you, just obscuring your vision a little bit. Of course, you can catch clips of this game on the BBC Sport website and app if you want to go back and watch that dismissal. With Australia now,
that dismissal will definitely be in the highlights.
And do we know who's hosting the highlights?
It's the girl in orange.
It's the girl in orange.
But that, just to put a bit of context into that stumping, you don't get a signal from the bowler when they're going to bowl a bouncer, so it's pure reactions from Amy Jones. So good. I could watch that on repeat all day. And not only is she stumped her, she nicked it, so she caught it as well.
Double dismissal. Sciver-Brunt bowling, straying onto the pads of Grace Harris, the new Australian batter, out in the middle. She picks up a single, gets off the mark straight away as Australia 98 for 4 off 14. She'll be relieved, of course, as after her unfortunate duck in the first T20 at Edgbaston, where she rather confidently strolled out to the middle singing Living on a Prayer, and then very quickly was walking back to the pavilion and probably not singing Living on a Prayer this time.
No, she wasn't, was she? So Amy, that will go down as a caught behind, which I actually think is even better. Just the way her reactions to that stumping, that short ball, the bouncer. Ash Gardner got a nick on it and she stumped her.
And with a minimum of fuss. She was so... do it every day.
It's an outstanding bit of glove work, and that's why she's the best in the world, because she does do those freakish bits of wicket keeping. And honestly, that will be everywhere, all over social media. Go and watch that.
Lauren Bell back into the attack. Bowls a full delivery first up, worked out to deep mid wicket, and Harris That's another single to her name. She moves on to 2. Australia 99 for 4.
And in the meantime, very quietly, Nat Sciver-Brunt, 3 overs, 2 for 14.
Yeah, well bowled Sciver-Brunt, and that shows the importance of, or shows how much England missed her during the Test match. She was unable to bowl because of a knee niggle.
As Bell, those arms swinging. She runs into Perry, who's down on one knee, sweeping the ball finally. The protection, that fine leg on the boundary. Sarah Glenn gets the ball in, brings up Australia's 100. 100 for 4. 14.2 overs, celebrated with a few bursts of fire around the ground and a respectful applause from the crowd. Bell at the top of her mark, a little skip and a jump as she runs in towards us, bowls, shorter ball, pulled out into the onside and a single taken, welcoming listeners from 5 Sports Extra to Lords for the 3rd Ashes T20, where of course England need to win to stay within this Ashes series. Australia, if they win today, they'll retain the Ashes. Give you a quick run through of the scorecard so far, as Lauren Bell just has a chat with Captain Heather Knight. Alyssa Healy, the Australian captain, she was trapped leg before wicket to Charlie Dean for 16 off 10. And Talia McGrath also removed as another good take from Amy Jones behind the stumps. Lauren Bell, who's using that shorter delivery incredibly well so far in this game. She takes another one with ease. It's an important dot ball. Australia 101 for 4. Talia McGrath, the dangerous Talia McGrath, was removed for just 10 off the bowling of Danny Gibson, playing just her 3rd international game, caught by Alice Capsey. And you've got the wicket of Beth Mooney as full from Bell on the pads of Perry, who works the ball out to Cow. They were looking for a second one there and in the end decide on the single. 102 for 4. Yeah, Beth Mooney bowled by Nat Sciver-Brunt in quite an unusual dismissal, going down on one knee, looking to paddle the ball. It's quite against the run of play there in the end. And then just now we saw Ash Gardner removed for 32, in which we thought was a brilliant bit of brilliant stumping from Amy Jones, but in fact there was a little bit of bat on it, so it was a brilliant catch instead.
Even better.
As Lauren Bell past the stumps, down the leg side, swept away to the boundary. This will be 4 runs to Grace Harris. 106 for 4 now, Australia. They're just looking for a partnership between these two out there in the middle. A few more thoughts from you, Alex Hartley, and then it'll be Henry Moran.
Yeah, poor ball there from Lauren Bell, and it is raining now. The rain is falling quite heavily. The umbrellas are starting to go up, but poor ball, and you fear Grace Harris is due some runs. She hasn't had any runs in this series. Phil will be able to remember or remind us what she's got so far in this series. But the rain is falling, Henry.
It is, and I don't know how brave and bold umpires Redfern and Warren are going to be. At the moment, it looks like there's no interest in leaving the field. There are a few brollies popping up and sou'westers being put on, but it looks like I'm amazed that they haven't called things off. Because, now umpire Sue said, no, we can't be doing with this. And so we are going to see the players retreating to the comfort and safety of that Lord's Pavilion, with Australia at 106 for 4. And we're going to have a bit of a break. And I sort of knew this was coming because I was just over listening to 5 Live Sport, and their coverage of Wimbledon. And they reported that the covers were on at Centre Court and they were having to close the roof. And as soon as that happened, knowing that the prevailing wind comes from southwest London towards where we are in North London, it felt quite probable that we'd be seeing something soon after. So there we go, Phil Long.
Yeah, we've got half an hour to play with before we even consider losing overs. So, this hopefully be a shower. Back out soon, and we'll still have a 20-over side game.
Terrific as the hover cover roars into life. And actually, the hover cover is taking some of the boundary with it, which is it's sort of eaten it, and now it's being retrieved from the jaws of this enormous bit of kit. So the covers are coming on. It's going to a reasonable amount of rain that's fallen. Actually, you can see the tall buildings over to the right, to the southwest of where we are, beyond the Warner stand. Actually, you can sort of barely see them. There's just a few twinkling red lights from the cranes in the distance, which kind of tells us that there might be just a little bit of rain coming in. I think we've got a bit unlucky looking at the radar. But there we go. Well, in terms of where we are in this game, 106 for 4. I think England would have taken that. Australia, where do you see them?
Look, I think England won't be too concerned, but Australia, they've got Perry and Harris at the crease, who have faced a few deliveries. They've still got Sutherland, Wareham, Jonathan to come. 5 overs. I feel like they could go at 9s, 10s. They could, which is scary. But if they lose overs and it could advantage England here, just this time out of the game.
Well, everybody's got overs left in the England bowling lineup. Because Siva Brunt has bowled more today, it's given them so much more flexibility. So we'll see Sophie Eccleston bowl 2 out of the final 5, should we get them. Sarah Glenn, you'd have thought, will bowl a couple as well. And that then just leaves 1 over to find from Dean, Siva Brunt, Bell and Gibson. So England have got... It's amazing when you do get access to that extra bowler in the all-rounder. Suddenly really opens things up.
And I think the performance of Dean up front, the 3 overs in the power play, they're banking overs, and then you can work your bowling lineup with more flexibility because of that performance up front. So I think Heather will be pretty happy with where things are at. But Australia have that firepower down the bottom. We saw the way Sutherland came out, and even Wareham hitting back-to-back 6s. She doesn't need a warm-up.
No. She just arrives and delivers.
That's right.
What have we made of the performances of some of the big guns in Australia's batting lineup away from Beth Mooney, who's been outstanding? I'm looking particularly at Healy and Gardner across this Women's Ashes series. I'm not sure we've quite seen the best of them with the bat so far.
We haven't. I mean, if you start with Healy, and you mentioned earlier she avoided 4 consecutive ducks in Test cricket. Is that a double pair? I think that's probably what you'd call it.
It's almost a flock.
A flock, and she avoided that. And
she was dropped on naught.
It was an under edge. I'm not sure that's a chance. Anyway, she comes out to bat under enormous pressure as captain in a Test match. England, they're on a roll. They could potentially set up a Test victory with the session they were in, and then Healy with a broken finger, 1 on each hand, comes out with that individual pressure and peels off a 50 in quick time.
That's a good point. That was some innings, that.
It was incredible. It was my favourite moment in the Test match. There was the double 100 from Tammy, 10 wickets from Eccleston, 12 from Gardner. Now, they're hard to beat. But, I mean, I guess I know Elisa very well. I had been speaking to her throughout the game. I was aware of the issues with the broken finger, or fingers. And for her to do that, I thought was really special. And then you look at the match at the Oval, and she peeled off a really quick-fire 35 inside the power play, and sort of sets up the game there, potentially to chase down what would have been a record, the highest successful chase for Australia. So, look, I think she's been pretty good. Gardner, maybe a little underdone there. We expect so much from her when she's equal highest overseas paid player in the WPL.
Well, it does almost feel unfair, doesn't it? Because such are the standards that have been set by so many of these players that when they don't absolutely blitz it, you think, well, that's a bit of a failure. But of course it's not. Relatively speaking, the innings that Ash Gardner played tonight was an outstanding one. She scored 32 and hit the ball to all parts of the grounds. It's just that we have these expectations on this Australian team. Good news, by the way, covers are coming off, so Stump's going back in, and looks as though it will only be a very brief interlude, which is good news. So that's where we are with everything here, and I think what we have seen in the last few years with this Australian side, Alex, is there has been such a remarkable standard set in terms of fitness, all 3 facets of the game, and it is all credit to them that when they don't quite perform as people expect, that it is pointed out, because it's such an unusual thing when they don't.
Yeah, the last 35 white ball games, they've only lost 2. It's a very, very good record. And they have set the benchmark, and they're a formidable side. Even when you set the best total you've ever set against them. England know that they nearly got chased down that 183. So, exceptional team, very, very professional. They are all professional, and they've always, even prior to professional contracts, held the fielding and the fitness in very high regard. So they haven't been at their absolute best in the field in the T20s. They certainly were in the Test match. Wow. I mean, they stopped at least sort of 50 or 60 runs purely with their fielding, and it was a real contrast with the English team.
Well, good news, players are running back out, so we've not lost too much time, around about 5 or 6 minutes or so, and I'm sure we've not lost any overs, given that Phil confirmed that we'd have to lose half an hour's worth of play before any of that sort of stuff started happening. So, with Grace Harris on 7, similarly Elise Perry, Australia 106 for 4 with 5 overs left, we are almost ready to resume. We were talking about running in the next door commentary box, and because it was such a big subject earlier in the year with Dane van Niekerk missing that selection for the South African side for that World Cup. And we were discussing with Emily Windsor, who's a physiotherapist, all the various metrics that are measured for the players nowadays, and the sort of numbers and speed of doing 2K time trials.
And the different tests that we've done over the years.
In comes Danny Gibson then as play resumes. Oh, it's a delivery which is hammered for 6 first up. It was a short ball inviting Elise Perry just to get underneath it and say cheerio to the backward square leg boundary, and 6 runs does not represent the perfect resumption of play for England and Danny Gibson. A bit of a freebie that for Elise Perry.
Well, the rain has threatened here. We didn't lose much time, but I just wonder if it sparked in the Australian batters a real intensity for these last 5 overs, knowing that there could be more rain, and just to finish off strong. So 6 off the first ball back.
Gibson bowling to Perry, who slashes that ball out towards backward point, and she will get a single. The score advances 1-1-3 for 4.
So currently a 2K time trial is one of the battery of tests that is used to test your endurance, really, and actually probably your attitude and your resilience. We've had a yo-yo test before and a beat test, which is more interval running.
Yeah, the beat test. Gibson bowls. That's very crisply crunched out towards deep backward point again, this time for the bat of Harris for 1 more. 1-1-4 for 4.
I'm sure there's some listeners out there who've done a beat test or two at school.
I remember the beat
Terrible
test.
things. And it's funny how the flavour changes over the years. I played for 15 years. At the start, our test was a 2K time trial. Then it changed to a beat test, then a yo-yo, and now it's back to the 2K time trial.
Yeah. Gibson bowls, giving herself some room is Perry, and hammering that ball out to deep mid-wicket. Wyatt is watchful in front of the grandstand as the ball spins and squirms off the surface, but she collects cleanly. 1 run taken.
But one of the newer tests is a run of 3, and you have to do that six times, and I think it's within 30 seconds you've got to complete that repetition of the run of 3, and you have to do it in your pads and your gloves and carry the bat.
Gibson bowls a slower ball, which is waited for by Harris, and she drives out towards Dunkley at deep cover for 1 more. So hold on a minute. So you've got to run a 3 inside 30 seconds.
Yeah, and then do that 6 or 8 times. So the faster you do it, the greater the rest time.
Of course. See, I'm imagining if me and Phil Long headed to the park padded up for that, I think we'd look a bit weird.
And one of the strength and conditioning coaches I had, Sally Bailey, she used to take us for long runs just down by the river in New Zealand or whatever, and she once did it in pads herself.
Here comes Gibson bowling a delivery which beats the flashing blade of Elise Perry. So a good recovery actually in the over from Gibson. 6 and then 4 singles and a dot. So Australia, with 4 overs left in their innings, are 116 for 4. Remember, highlights available on the BBC iPlayer and BBC Sport website from 11 o'clock this evening. We've got live in-play clips and highlights right now. And Callum Matthews is looking after things on the live text commentary.
When you just mentioned running there, I thought you might have stumbled across something I stumbled across when I was looking into this game.
Mm-hmm.
Can you name the woman who has been run out most times in T20 internationals?
Well, I'm cheating. I'm looking at my notes. run out. Oh, we had a run out of Talia McGrath. So I'm thinking, well, she's not played long enough.
No, it's got to be an old timer, surely. Here comes Eccleston right on the toes of Harris, and she can do nothing with it.
It's a real old timer.
Is it Betty Snowball?
Sorry.
T20 internationals.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Oh, it could be me.
It's AJ Blackwell.
There we go.
18
Well, this is me
times.
throwing my wicket away as a middle order bat. No need to get a not out.
Eccleston bowls, mistimed by Harris as she tries to whip the ball out towards mid-wicket. Just one taken. It's just because you're so selfless as a cricketer.
Well, there was definitely a few last ball. You run for two no matter what. So I'll take that one, Phil. And look, I got it wrong sometimes. I do admit.
Good to be top of any list.
Here comes Eccleston. Round the wicket, bowling to Perry, who tries to slice that ball behind square, but can only find Capsey at backward point. Good over this from Eccleston.
Alex saying now she got it wrong sometimes. How many times do you think she said that back in the dressing room?
No, I was always happy to have a conversation when you burn your partner and I'm so sorry about that, and you don't get much response usually, but at least you've addressed it. It does happen. And I think in T20 if there's no half run outs.
Eccleston bowls, driven down the ground towards Capsey in front of the pavilion for a single, 118 for 4, 2 balls left of the 17th over.
Or should I say run out chances. You're not pushing hard enough. I mean, you've got 10 wickets to lose in 20 overs. You don't want obvious run-outs, but you need to put pressure on the inner circle fielders.
Eccleston bowls. Harris with a grunt hammers the ball down the ground for a single. Well, I think the thing about a run-out, you don't see them as often as you used to, I don't think. I think people have got more professional at running, which is, from a spectator's point of view, a real blow for the game, because it is one of the more comical aspects of cricket. In comes Eccleston, bowling to Perry, who hits the ball without perfect timing down the ground for a single. It'll be fielded by Gibson. And the over comes to an end. How many from that one there, Phil? 4 from it. So 120 for 4 with 3 overs left of the innings. I mean, personally, I'd like to see more run-outs. Like I have looked up Inzamam Ul Huq's run-out compilation on YouTube more times than I care to remember, just because run-outs are inherently amusing.
Well, there's some other things that you see less frequently. The relay throw. Now, we used to practice the relay throw because the boundaries were much, much bigger. You know, we might play almost to the fence. So there was a time where bringing the field in, encouraging six hitting, was decided.
Siva Brunt bowls all down the leg side. Helped on its way, and that'll be 4. Bit of an easy option that for Elise Perry at the start of the over, and 4 runs to kick-start that over for Australia, who moved to 1-2-4 for 4.
So with the smaller boundaries, and one would argue that maybe it's time to move them back, because the women are hitting sixes very frequently and easily, but you see fewer 3s and you see fewer relay throws. That the arms are stronger too now, so...
Siva Brunt, keeper standing up to the stumps. Mistimed by Perry, but she could get a boundary here because it is going to race across the outfield down towards fine leg, and she does get 4. It wasn't really where she was looking to hit it, but that doesn't matter for Australia. Back-to-back boundaries to start Siva Brunt's 4th and final over, and Australia moved to 128 for 4.
Well, dangerous territory for the England team. Perry only faced 27 deliveries and hit 51 not out at the Oval. Having faced 20 tonight, she's on 25. She's in good form.
Comes down the track and just gently bunts the ball into the leg side. Now there's a problem here for Nat Siva Brunt as she's collapsed into a bit of a heap. 2 runs are taken to move Australia to 130 for 4, but Siva Brunt, I don't know, just because she's lost her footing or because something more significant than that. She is getting up with a smile, so I think she's okay, but just a slightly worrying moment there. I think probably it's the slightly greasy surface. It is, yeah. Ow.
Yeah, just lost the footing there. Hopefully no damage done to that tender knee. But yeah, Perry, danger when she's faced this many deliveries. She can start hitting 6s at will. We saw that at the Oval.
In comes Siva Brunt. This is again down the leg side, helped on its way. It's going to be 4 more. This is an expensive over, very valuable one for Australia. And the normally so reliable wicket-to-wicket bowling of Siva Brunt has just slightly fallen away here. We've already seen 14 from the over with 2 balls left of it. 1-3-4 for 4.
Well, first time we would have seen Nat Siva Brunt complete a full complement of overs. Hopefully we do see that. Couple of deliveries left. Back of the hand slower ball, so effective late in the innings on what is a slow pitch.
Here comes Siva Brunt bowling to Perry. This is chipped in the air. Cries of catch. Fielder running in. Just can't get there. But goodness, what a good piece of fielding it was from Danny Wyatt, who had to make quite a tough decision as to whether to go to the catch and risk a trip to the orthodontist or whether to just play safe. She went for the catch and then managed to stop it as well. So just 2 taken.
Yeah, that looks like a smother. And that's pretty well played there, Danny Wyatt.
It was, because that's the sort of one that can really, really hurt if you get it wrong. Final ball of the over, and mistimed from Perry. It'll go down towards fine leg, where tumbling down is Lauren Bell to pick up. 1 run taken, so Perry will keep the strike. 18 overs gone, 1-3-7 for 4. A couple of massive overs to come for the interval. So, I should say, during the interval, we're going to be learning more about the MCC Foundation, chatting to Sarah Fain and Claire Connor as well. And there's been a special ceremony earlier on today at the far end of the ground. You were there?
Oh, it was very special. We heard from the outgoing, or the former president of the MCC, Claire Connor, and then the new president, Stephen Fry, and talking about the moment 25 years ago when the Ashes Trophy was created, and to immortalise that really and acknowledge it in a plaque, just like the Grace Gates or the Rachel Hayhoe Flint Gates. This will be there forever to remind everybody of that day the Ashes was created.
This first delivery of the over is an appeal for LBW as Lauren Bell eventually gets the decision. Well, Elise Perry was almost all the way down the other end when eventually the finger went up from umpire Russell Warren, and I imagine that she's going to review this. There's a little conversation taking place, and yeah, she's saying to Grace Harris, is this worth checking? And the decision has been made to go upstairs and call Sophie McClelland into action. So we're going to see whether this was straight enough.
TV umpire to director. We have a player review for LBW. Original decision is out. I've checked front foot. It's a fair delivery. Can I have front on, please?
So here we go. This is going to give us quite a lot of information because it was very full, so we know it's not going over. The England players gathered looking up at the big screen to the left of the pavilion. Australia, as things stand, 1-3-7 for 5. This could be quite a big moment in the game. And still we wait. Quite often it's ball tracking that takes a while to come. On this occasion, the first replay hasn't yet been shown.
Okay, DRS is down, so we will stay with the original decision. Russell, stay with your decision of out. Signal now.
DRS is down, so if the decision is given on the field, the decision remains on the field. So Elise Perry has to go. I think, given the fact that she took so long to review it, it wasn't one of those where you sense there's been a grave injustice. It's not normally if you've inside edged it. Here we go. Here comes the first replay. Looking at this, yeah, that's missing off, missing leg and hitting middle. That's very, very out. So there we go. Another wicket falls. 34 for Elise Perry, and Annabelle Sutherland joins the action. 1-3-7 for 5.
Well, when DRS is down, I guess that's the sort of dismissal you'd like to see, where there's really no doubt. Now, Annabelle Sutherland was outstanding at the Oval. Hit 20 of 12. Hit some powerful sixes. She's an athlete.
She is, and she's a sort of player that doesn't take too long to get going either, which is what you need in this situation. 11 balls left of the innings. Here comes Lauren Bell. She runs in towards us, but something has disturbed Sutherland. And so we're going to have a little bit of a break as Lauren Bell has to turn round and head to the back of her mark. She's only gone for 16 runs so far from her 3.1 overs. It's been a really good spell of bowling.
Just wonder if the umpires are saying DRS may be back on. Seemed to be communicating with the captain, Heather Knight, there.
Here comes Bell. Keeper standing up to the stumps, and this is hit down the ground forcefully by Sutherland. Eccleston has to watch it carefully into the hands, but collects cleanly at long on. As the pavilion in the distance with those flags lying limply is beginning to sort of fade into the evening gloom.
We just see that the field adjusting to Grace Harris, 4 out on the leg side. So very, very strong on the slog sweep.
In comes Bell, dropping it short this time, and walloped into the leg side by the powerful Harris. She'll only get one, though, because deep mid-wicket is waiting. And another good delivery from Lauren Bell, who will be looking to close out her spell of bowling with no boundaries given. Let's see that replay again. Yeah, it strikes Elise Perry right on the toe of her left boot.
She's got a few wickets on this leg cutter slower ball, Lauren Bell. It'd be good to see some stats on that, how effective it's been.
In comes Bell, driven hard towards mid-off. Oh, if it had been collected cleanly, there was a definite chance of a run out at the non-striker's end, but the slightly bar a soap-like ball after the rain slips out of Alice Capsey's hands. 2 balls left of the final over, penultimate over, I should say, of this innings. Is it raining again?
Just a hint.
There's just a little bit, isn't there? Here comes Bell. Galloping in towards us, very straight approach, right arm over. This is dropped short, and goodness, that's hit well, 4 runs. Harris hits that savagely to the left of the fielder at fine leg, and it was over the boundary on the bounce within a heartbeat. That is a serious shot from Grace Harris, 144 for 5.
Yeah, dangerous sort of ploy here to Harris. 4 out on the leg side. Bell looking to bowl into the wicket, nice and straight. All the fielders up on the offside. So Harris just looking to stand as still as possible and react to the ball coming down.
Bell emerging from the crepuscular at the far end of the ground as on strike is Harris, driving with a high elbow down the ground for 1. And the end of the spell for Lauren Bell, who finishes 4 overs, 1 for 24. So she's gone at exactly a runner ball, which in T20 cricket you would take every day of the week. So 1 over left, Australia 145 for 5. Alex Blackwell, where do Australia need to be to feel comfortable? Maybe you think they are already?
I don't know that they'll feel comfortable, but so 6 balls. You've got Harris on strike. You've got Sutherland. How many would they get off this last? They're going to get 10 at least. 10 at least off the last.
You think they will?
They will.
Oh.
It's Eccleston. It's going to be tough, but you've got hitters coming in as well. So you've got Wareham ready to go.
So Eccleston has bowled 3 overs, none for 21, and she is standing right in front of umpire Sue Redfern and is going to bowl to the right-handed Grace Harris. Fielders in the deep at long off, long on, deep mid-wicket and deep backward square leg. This is dropped short, could go anywhere. Oh, goodness me, it's the worst drop you'll ever see. I'm afraid Lauren Bell, having bowled so brilliantly, has put down the sort of chance that is nigh on unforgivable. There could be a run out, though. We're going to have a look at this in a moment, and Bell is putting her hand up and saying, sorry, that was, for want of a better word, awful. Well, they're going to check the boundary first up. It's not a boundary.
Yeah, not a good piece of fielding there from Bell, but one of the things I was disappointed with was her recovery after the drop, because there was Dean at the boundary with no partner to flick the ball back to.
It's almost like she lost that in the floodlights. So 148 for 5. Have they checked this run out? She was well in, was she? Right. Okay. We're going to continue with the score. 148 for 4. How many did they score from that? 3, was it? Right.
I said there were fewer 3s in this game now. So.
The lesser spotted 3.
Yeah.
Right then. Confusion reigns at the moment. We're still waiting for something.
And it was an opportunity for a relay throw.
It was. Here comes Eccleston. This is lofted down the ground. Could be a chance of a catch. Oh, Gibson puts down a shocker. 2 in 2 balls. The sort of catches you should be taking 100 times out of 100. This time it's Gibson at long on. And if England lose this game by 2 or 3 runs, they will look back at these moments and wonder quite where it slipped away.
Well, Eccleston creating 2 opportunities in 2 balls. That was some great bowling. Poor fielding from England.
Eccleston bowls. This is hit down the ground. It'll be 4. And this is punishment on top of punishment. Grace Harris smacking the ball down the ground. Lovely timing. 150 up for Australia. And it's moments like that that not only can cost you runs, but can cost you such valuable momentum and confidence as a side.
Yeah, look, if England could have tightened up, got this overdone, keeping Australia under 150, huge psychological advantage. They've let that go now.
3 balls left of the innings. This is hit away in the air into the offside on the bounce. Capsey has to watch it into the hands, and she does so. 1 taken. So 1-5-4 for 5 with 2 balls left of the innings. I'm afraid those are two of the worst drops I can remember seeing all summer. In the space of 2 balls. Here comes Eccleston. Round the wicket. Bowling to Sutherland, who is bowled. Eccleston turns with a degree of frustration as the stumps light up, and there is not even a hint of a smile from Sophie Eccleston.
She's mad, isn't she?
She's absolutely ticking. She's barely even willing to accept the high fives from Alice Capsey. And with 1 ball left of the innings, Australia 1-5-4 for 6. It was full, it was straight enough, and Sutherland goes. So Sutherland goes for 3. Sophie Eccleston wearing the sort of expression she normally only saves for an Everton defeat at home. 1-5-4 for 6.
It's a real shame because England have been terrific, having reeled in Australia. They've got consistent wickets throughout. The big key batters for Australia never got going. And then just really flat in this last 2 overs with the 2 drop catches. There should have been great celebrations there. I mean, this is still a pretty good total to have kept Australia 2. They just know that they've let potentially 10 runs go here in the final over.
So Wareham on strike for the final ball of the innings, and a little bit of air is offered by Eccleston. Driven down the ground, 1 taken. They'll turn for a second. Throw comes in, has to go to the keeper's end. Actually, I think she's probably done enough at the non-strikers to run out Grace Harris, and so we will go upstairs, but I'm pretty certain that this is going to see 1 taken and then a wicket for the second run.
Can I have your best side on
so
angle,
we will
please?
see. I think it's actually Anna Harris on TV umpire duty. That sounds like Anna Harris to me. As Capsey throws from the deep. And we see this side on view. Eccleston collects cleanly.
Okay, ball is in hand, stump's broken, she's short of her ground. I'm ready to make my decision for the big screen.
So there we go. That is going to be out, and Australia at the end of all that, they're going to find themselves with a total of 155, and England, to stay alive in the Ashes, will need 156. Phil, just quickly, how many did those drops cost? I make it 3 from that first one, then the 4 from Grace Harris, and then they ran through for at least 1, possibly 2 with that other drop.
Yeah, there was 3. Yeah, the drop led to 3 runs, so yeah, from that ball alone it was 3, and then yeah, that one you mentioned, yeah, so only 4 in the end 'cause it was the last over, but goodness me, there was a couple of drop catches early on as well that cost England.
Righto. Thank you so much, Alex. We will speak to you again in the second innings. 156 will be England's target. 155 for 7. I will just rattle on through that scorecard. Australia then making a total of 155 for 7. Top scoring in the innings was 34 that we saw from Elise Perry from 25 deliveries. There was 32 apiece from Beth Mooney and Ashley Gardner. And for England, 2 wickets for Nat Sciver-Brunt and 1 apiece for Charlie Dean, Lauren Bell, Danny Gibson and Sophie Eccleston. And the ground staff, they are making the approach onto the field to see if there's any work that they can do some mopping up. Alex Hartley is appearing in a marvellous shade of apricot, and she is going to give us some thoughts on what she can see. They're sort of with the ground sheets, Alex. They're currently doing that thing that you do when you're trying to get the bed sheets looking very straight. You know, they're just sort of shaking them down.
Well, they're doing that so they can roll them back up and they can start to take the covers off.
Oh, here we go. They are. It's a sort of the enormous Swiss roll effect going on out there, which is lovely to see. Emily Windsor's here with us as well. We've started losing overs. Who does this benefit?
Oh, no.
Well, you know what? If we don't go back out, the 1 point, the Ashes are still alive for England. So
Well, that's true.
At what point are they sat there going, you know what? We've got to win the rest of the games anyway. Let's just take the point and move on to the next one.
Yeah, it's almost you're defending a 1-goal lead away on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, but they'll want the momentum, won't they? So they'll want to take that into the ODIs. If they can get two wins and actually beat Australia in a T20 series for the first time since 2017.
Yeah, amazing, really, isn't it?
So, that's 6 years since England have won a series, T20 series against Australia. So they'll want that. They'll want to get back out there. I don't know how Duckworth-Lewis works. It hurts my brain.
Well, there's
just
a
have to
man
wait.
who likes numbers like most of us like air. Phil Long. What can you tell us? What does it mean when we start losing overs? What sort of calculations are we going to see?
Yeah, well, we'll see that most teams generally prefer to bat second when Duckworth-Lewis is brought in. The only kind of difference tonight is that Australia batted for their full 20s. Their score was unaffected by the rain, and we'll see what's what when Duckworth-Lewis produces the number. I'm not going to guess. I haven't got it in front of me at the moment, but as soon as I have, I will let you know.
Right then. Go on now.
That was it.
I was going to
Was it
say,
you?
I think
Sorry.
the thing that always benefits a team batting first is you always have 10 wickets to chase that lower total, so you can play more riskier cricket earlier, whereas if obviously when you're defending, they could actually be 2-3 down, and I think it's always the wickets thing that sways it in the team that's batting seconds first, because you can go harder earlier.
Yeah, you often talk about just one wicket completely changes a game when it comes to Duckworth-Lewis. And when you're chasing, you want to stay up par Duckworth-Lewis as soon as you can. You want to get up and above it. Try and get 10, 15 runs above it. So if you lose a wicket, that deficit doesn't affect it too much. So England, they'll be looking at the scoreboard. They'll be looking at Duckworth-Lewis. But first and foremost, with whatever is set and whenever, they'll assess and they'll go for the win.
Yeah, well, I think we are going to see some play. That's my instinct. Inevitably, the umpires are underneath umbrellas. Actually, only one umpire is underneath an umbrella, and that's our fourth umpire, Sophie McClelland, who is currently in conference with the ground staff here. The crowd have pretty much remained in their seats, and I can't see a brolly anywhere out there, so the rain has pretty much stopped. And half of the ground sheets now have been taken away. So once we have those cleared away, I think it won't be too long before we're starting going again. And actually, such is the enthusiasm for England to get going that Sophia Dunkley and Danny Wyatt are already on the boundary edge as if they're about to march out and start the run chase. So they're certainly eager to get out there. England's target, well, it was 156 originally, but we have started losing over, so that will be revised down. We will wait to find out how much and everything else shortly. I can see the ground staff actually mopping up huge quantities of water off that one ground sheet that is still lying down, but it will be absorbed pretty quickly by the very fast draining Lord's outfield. So we're not too far away from a resumption, I don't think. What did we make of that first innings then? Alex, 155 for 7, couple of little freebies for Australia at the end.
Yeah, those two drop catches were possibly the two worst I've seen for a very long time. So England will be frustrated with that. Sophie Eccleston in particular was frustrated with that. I think actually it's probably about par, that nobody went on and got a big score for Australia. And I think that is key in T20 cricket, for somebody to go on and get 50, get 60, 70, a bit like Danny Wyatt did in that second T20 that we had at the Oval the other evening. So Australia, they'll feel like they can defend it, but one big score from somebody, an England player, and I reckon they can win.
Well, Mike Peter, who's looking after our live text commentary this evening on the BBC Sport website and app, you'll be able to find the live clips in there as well, has made a very good point, and that is that the 5-over thrash, should it be required, and I don't think it will be quite like that, because we'd need to start around about 9:30 for it to be quite that late. But England won't have had much experience of that, because there is less franchise cricket, there is less of that sort of scenario building that they would have experienced around the game. So it could be quite a psychological challenge as well if the game is massively reduced.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in those sort of shortened format, you tend to get the momentum of one side, and it just tends to keep going that way, doesn't it? It's not, we won't see it as topsy and turvy as you can do in T20 cricket. Actually, how England ended in the field with those couple of drop catches, potentially momentum was with Australia. So this little break gives them a chance to regroup, get back together, and actually come up with a plan. But England's top order, they have the power early on. That's how they're playing, isn't it? They've got Danny Wyatt, Sophia Dunkley, Alice Capsey, who always, without fail, go hard at the ball. So I think it's going to be tough for Australia to defend, actually. And I think the ball gets wet, potentially loose deliveries come into play, and Australia weren't as disciplined at the Oval with their fielding, but it is going to be trickier with a slightly damp outfield.
Yeah, England will want to get that ball into the deep as soon as possible and get that ball as wet as possible, because then change-ups for the Australian seamers, their spinners, they've got a lot of spinners, they'll find it harder to grip the ball, so that will be in England's favour.
Well, yeah, you as a spin bowler, Alex, talk us through that. When the ball becomes a little bit sort of more swollen as well, the ball.
Yeah, and it almost becomes slippery. So the
Right.
seam swells and it almost it does burst at the seam, and then water seeps out of the seam and it becomes slimy and slippery. So you have to dry it as much as you can and keep trying to dry the ball. You have towel, you use your shirt, you just use anything you can. But if it gets too slippery, you can change the ball. You can say to the umpires, this ball's too wet, we need to change it.
Well, umpire Sue is heading off the field with a pen, a clipboard and a sheet of paper, and I think she's about to tell England openers Sophia Dunkley and Danny Wyatt, as well as coach John Lewis, exactly what the requirement will be, because I think they've done some calculations. They know when we're going to be starting, and they know exactly what England are going to have to do. So we will get that information shortly. We get it sent from the match manager, so we'll get it pretty much immediately, and as soon as we know, then we will let you know, because it's going to be massively significant, of course, because of England's need to win this game. Or indeed, if it was washed out, that wouldn't be the end of the world, as Emily says. But if they do see this game played to its conclusion, then England need to win it. They can't afford to lose it, or it is ashes over. So Wyatt and Dunkley have been told. They are trudging back to the England area of the dugouts, and we will find out shortly. Australia are being told as well, by the way.
Yeah, I was just looking at the England camp there, and Dunkley, Wyatt, John Lewis, both John Lewis is actually on the screen, to see if I could get any reaction, to see if they think Duckworth-Lewis is fair or not, because quite often you see a Duckworth-Lewis stern score and you go, what? But there was none of that. Everybody was pretty straight-faced.
They were. It was quite a sort of poker face all round, wasn't it? So we will find out shortly, and it will be really significant, Emily, because it's one of those things where when you know what you're doing in a run chase, you think, right, 20 overs, it's 156. We've kind of done this plenty of times, but when you have a lot of time to think about it, and suddenly the calculations change a little bit, it all becomes a bit tougher.
Yeah, and I think sometimes actually going from ball one in an innings can be quite challenging as a batter. I think if Sophia Dunkley and Danny Wyatt look at it, right, we're chasing 150 off 20 overs. We know they're going to go hard in the power play and stick to their strengths, but they've got a bit of time to build on that. But if all of a sudden it's of 5-10 overs and the total, you've got to go from ball one, and every ball matters. The shorter the shorter it's reduced. So I think I don't really know where I sit until we see the calculation. It's hard to say who it favours, but I feel like Australia, for me, are so strong and strong-minded in these situations. And you look how fired they are. Their eyes, Beth Mooney, we look at on the pictures, she looks ready.
She does, yeah, absolutely. And they'll know, Australia, that losing one game is forgivable, but for this side, losing two and losing a T20 series, albeit as part of a wider series, would be a real blow, actually.
They don't lose series. They don't lose games of cricket. They very, very rarely lose games of cricket. They'll want to bounce back. They'll have that bit between their teeth, because they did lose that game the other day. So I'm actually really looking forward to see how the Australians tackle this.
Right then, we have news, and that news is that we're going to have a restart in 13 minutes. So if no further rain, a start at 9:05, 14 overs in 53 minutes with a cut-off of 2 minutes to 10. What we don't know is what that means in terms of a revised target, but I can see the match manager is busily getting that information ready for us, and we will have it shortly. So 14 overs, 6 overs lost therefore, and how many runs are England going to need to get? My guess would be it'll be around about 110, 120, something like that.
That feels high, Henry.
Do you think?
I don't know.
I honestly...
14 overs, 110.
Oh, here we go. 4 over power play. No drinks break. One bowler bowls 2 overs. 4 bowlers can bowl 3 overs.
But how many runs?
All we want is how many runs England need in their 14 overs.
Well, honestly, The covers are coming off, so that's getting even more enthusiasm. Oh, look, he's got the calculator out as Phil Long, so he's going to be able to give us a rough guide shortly.
It's a Duckworth-Lewis calculator.
It's a race.
It is.
Who's going to get it first?
Do you never use the Duckworth-Lewis calculator?
I've never even heard of it.
Do you not scenario build fantasy cricket games in your mind?
No, I don't know. Otherwise, I'd have done it by now.
Strange, that. That's how I spend my Saturday nights, normally. Right, 155-7. I can see Heather Knight leaning over the boundary, the England captain, desperate to find out what it is. She puts her arms out. She's alongside Gareth Breeze and Sophie Eccleston and just saying, well, what have we got to do? Somebody tell us. Because it is all on the line for England this evening. And as we see the two tractors driving round, just with that rope between them, doing the last bit of work that's normally done between rain breaks. And we will find out imminently what we're looking at.
That's a job that I've always wanted to do. That.
What, driving a tractor around an outfield?
Yeah.
Our head coach at Thunder did it the other week, and he was like a kid on a tractor. He was putting his thumbs up. I'm on the tractor. I'm doing it. We were like anything to get the game on.
Could you imagine me and you, Hartley, on one and me on one, you on the other?
I'd probably end up driving it in the wrong direction. I can't lie.
What, sort of like wacky racers?
I think it would get competitive, you know.
It would, wouldn't it?
Knowing Alex as I do, I think that is reasonably likely. Right, we're restarting in about 10 minutes, but what we're doing for that restart in terms of the run chase, we don't know. It's 14 overs. England are going to have to chase X number of runs, and as soon as we do know, we will let you know, because it is quite significant. And I can see as the cameras pan towards the England dressing room, John Lewis is there leaning on a table. I think he's probably waiting for the information as well. How does this affect? I know this doesn't necessarily apply to you as an opening batter, Alex, but how does this affect sides waiting to go out, not knowing?
I did open the batting once or twice.
Did you?
In club cricket, 86 not out. Thank you very much.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I
Who
did.
were you playing?
13-year-old girls.
How old were you?
18, 19. I ruined some careers. I did ruin some careers. What was your question? Sorry. How does it affect the batters going out in the middle? I think that it doesn't really. They'll assess the target that's set. They'll have that in mind. They'll know the run rate that they need to go at. But I honestly think you know you've got a shortened game. You've just got to go out there and be aggressive. And with it being a shorter game and a smaller target to chase, I think England then can play with a little bit more freedom. But if they play in the same way that they did in the previous game, got the DLS score, hypercourse.
Well, yeah, I'm seeing this number a couple of times from a couple of sources. We haven't had it confirmed, but 119 is being mentioned.
That's a lot.
That feels like a lot of runs, doesn't it?
That is a lot.
Oh, 14 overs, 119.
Wow.
Well, you say that, but I'm just going to throw out there.
What's that an over?
Phil?
Get your calculator.
Well, hold on, we can work this out. What's 119 divided by 14? Come on, everybody. Calculator's out.
8.5.
8.5. Oh, it's quite a lot of runs.
That seems harsh to me.
I think it seems harsh, but what I will say is if there's no more rain about, when I go back to the wickets in hand, they've got 14 overs, they've got 10 wickets. The problem comes if you go hard too early and there is more rain due to come, then the wickets play into account. But 10 wickets, that feels a lot, Alex.
119, that's what we think it's going to be. We'll wait for official confirmation. The thing to remember with Duckworth-Lewis and the potential for any further rain, and there might be, it looks a little clearer now, but if there was a situation where England had to go off the field, or both sides went off the field, and England had lost more wickets, so they can't go completely wildly, if they'd lost lots of wickets, then obviously the Duckworth-Lewis score where they are at increases. So they need to show a degree of caution unless they're entirely confident that the rain's gone.
And the Ashes are on the line.
Yes.
Australia win today, they retain the Ashes. So England, they will have to be slightly cautious. They'll look if there's any rain around. If it's an Australia win, they retain the Ashes. An England win, they need to win the remaining ODIs, the 3 ODIs, to regain the Ashes. So it's game on.
119,
Hey.
confirmation. There we go. Right then. So we know what England have got to do to stay alive in this Ashes series. They've got to hit 119 in 14 overs with 10 wickets. That is the job ahead of them. Where do we think that stands? Phil Long, your instincts crunching the numbers over there.
Well, just looking at the other night at the Oval, England at the end of 14 overs were 114 for 5. So they were there or thereabouts. But I think it was fair to say, a different pitch on the Oval, and we just hadn't had an hour's worth of rain, which is going to slow things down, I think.
Well, it will. It'll make the outfield a little stodgier, but it will also make it harder to bowl. So there's various things working in various directions with all of this. And we won't know exactly who's going to benefit until we see what happens, which isn't too far away. 7 minutes until play resumes. Let me remind you, by the way, of what's happened in the men's Ashes today, with England in action, of course, up at Headingley against Australia. Well, it was very badly rain affected in Leeds. Play didn't eventually get underway until gone tea time, around about 5 o'clock. But Australia were bowled out for 224. And England set a target of 251. They made it through an awkward 25 minutes or so before the close to make 27 without loss. So need a further 224 runs to they themselves keep alive in their Ashes series. So if you want to see highlights of that, you can do so on the BBC iPlayer. So they're available for you with Ebony Rainford, Brent and the team. And also if you want to see any of the most significant moments of the day, some brilliant bowling from Chris Wokes in particular, then that's all on the BBC Sport website and app, as well as the full reports and all of the details of everything that you need to see. Coverage tomorrow, I should say, underway with the team up at Headingley from 10:30 tomorrow morning.
I'll be there.
Yeah, we'll be there.
On air this morning, on air this evening, on air tomorrow morning.
And you get from A to B via a
We'll be driving up
helicopter.
the road. Yes, helicopter. We actually, it's part of Alex Hartley's rider is that she insists at all times to be chauffeured in a helicopter.
Well, I did just get some brownie points from the in-laws. I brought them into the commentary box and they said, how are you getting back up? I said, oh, you're not getting me a helicopter.
Yeah, have they got one?
No, they haven't. They said, drive safe. Yeah, well, we'll get there about 3 a.m.
That's all right. Well, we're going to go late this evening, certainly, because this rain delay is going to delay things, Phil.
Sophie Eccleston, we mentioned how furious she was in that last over. There were a couple of poor bits of fielding. Shall we be kind and say
Terrible.
that? Okay. But she did take 1 wicket in the end. She's moved level with Anya Shrubsole on 102 T20 wickets. One England player lies ahead of her. It's Catherine Siverbrunt.
And where's she?
On 114.
Oh, well, she'll get that by the end of next summer.
She might get it by the end of this summer with the T20s against Sri Lanka to come later on in the year. So amazing, really. Sophie Eccleston's what, 24?
Yeah.
24, yeah.
Extraordinary.
How many games less has she played than Anya and Siverbrunt?
Good question.
Sophie Eccleston 73, Siverbrunt 112, and Shrubsole 79.
Ooh.
Anya took a lot of wickets in T20s.
Yeah. Well,
the all-time worldwide list, top of that list, Nida Dar and Megan Shute, who will see bowling today on 126. Just behind her, Anita Mohammed, Shabnam Ismail, and Elise Perry on 123. So she might go up that list tonight as well.
Sophie Eccleston, 24 years old. She'll play for another 10 years. She will smash that record.
Well,
Could
she
double
should do.
it.
She could. Yeah.
She should.
Indeed. Yeah, there's going to be, you'd have thought, plenty of T20 cricket to be played. The only thing that is worth pointing out with those records is there is more T20 cricket played now.
Oh, don't spoil the fun.
Well,
Henry.
Oh, no, sorry. Why do people always say that to me? OK, right. Play gets underway shortly. 3 minutes or so from the resumption, with England needing 119 rather, from 14 overs. So that is the state of play. It is going to be tense. It is going to be nervy. And this patient crowd are going to get rewarded with some cricket imminently as the floodlights beam down those skyscrapers and cranes that I mentioned earlier, absolutely crystal clear, and that's where the weather's coming from. So I'm pretty optimistic we're not going to see any more rain. Also, because there's not a breath of wind. You look at the MCC flag above the grandstand. It is just lying very lazily down against the flagpole. So we're not going to see too much weather interruptions, I don't think.
It's a sorry sight, a limp flag, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
They look so much better with a slight breeze.
I think in terms of qualities that flags have, definitely being able to see what's on them is one of them.
Yeah, they just droop down.
Yeah, you don't want to see that. Right then, here come Australia. They are roaring onto the field. And we're going to see, led by Lisa Healy, the captain, with the Australians dashing onto the field now. The umpires are out there already, as well as a couple of security guards in blue as well. The entire boundary actually is protected by stewards who are now making their way towards some picnic chairs that have been set up around the ground. And here come the England openers as well. We've got Sophia Dunkley who's been in good form in this series, and also Danny Wyatt, who was excellent the other night at the Oval, top scoring. So then, Alex Blackwell has replaced Alex Hartley, and Alex, where do you see that target? 119 from 14 overs. Would you feel confident if it was the other way around?
I think that this is still a decent run chase, 8.5 runs per over required, whereas it was at 7.75 runs per over required if it was 20 overs. So it's still going to be tough. I think it's slow to start. It's difficult to get going. We saw that even with Beth Mooney, who's one of the hardest batters to pin down. She really got bogged down. I think it was about 8 or 14. So Australia can start pushing that run rate up quite quickly, and it's about England holding their nerve and knowing that they've got 10 wickets to play with. And, I would say that it's probably theirs to win at this point.
Righto. Well, let's see what happens. Here comes Melissa Story for the opening stages.
Well, it's going to be Megan Shute with the new ball for Australia. Of course, England needing that revised target of 119 in 14 overs, or 84 balls, 4 overs of power play. Alex, hello.
Hello.
Megan Shute then at the top of her mark will be bowling to Sophia Dunkley. It's full, it's swinging into the pads, and it's worked off them by Dunkley to deep backwards square. She picks up a single and gets England off the mark.
And I think England has, of course, had an opportunity to watch how Australia went about it, and they would have had a chat about that it's not a 180 wicket. This is a more challenging wicket. It's slower, and to have to craft your runs. So, getting off strike quickly, running hard, rotating strike, being so important early in your innings.
As Danny Wyatt, who made spectacular runs for England in the last games on strike, she's defending to extra cover for a dot ball. And of course, with this revised total, England would just be that little bit more wary of those dot balls. But I guess the argument always being, Alex, that team coming in with 10 wickets in hand, for them, it's a little bit easier knowing what you're chasing, rather than if the rain had fallen part of the way in the second innings, things would have been a little bit more complicated. Shoot to Wyatt, who's dabbing the ball into the offside. Quick single taken shy at the striker's end, and Dunkley comfortably home in the end. England move on to 2 for none.
Sharp bit of fielding there. Beth Mooney at point. I think this would have been close. 1.5 stumps to aim at. Pick up and throw. Oh, close. I think she might have just been home. And Megan Shute, coming off a bit of a brutal outing at the Oval, getting hit for 41 off just 3 overs.
As she's bowling into Dunkley, looking to pull the ball into the onside, just gets a bit tangled inside edge into pad, and it's another dot ball. I guess the joy of the T20 format is that you're going to have some absolutely shocking days.
Yeah, and I mean, she's often topped the T20 bowling rankings. She's so crucial for this Australian team. She'll bowl a couple up front, and then those crucial death overs where she goes to her leg cutters. But Danny Wyatt took her to pieces at the Oval.
Shoot past the umpire, heaved by Dunkley into the onside, square of the wicket, and just the single taken, as she didn't exactly find the middle of the bat with that one. England moves on to 3 for none, a further 116 more runs required. Yes, Danny Wyatt the other day scoring 76 off 46 balls.
And hit Megan Shute. There was 25 runs hit off the 16th over. Shute didn't complete her full complement because of that.
As she's in to Wyatt, it's down the leg side, and a brilliant bit of wicket keeping from Alyssa Healy, who stood back. The ball kept swinging away from her. It's called wide by umpire Sue Redfern.
So, as I was discussing in the first innings, the in-swing bowler to the right-hander is coming from the media centre end. So the ball will swing in and then pitch and go down the slope.
Shoots in again outside the off stump, pierces the gap, does Danny Wyatt, down to the boundary for 4. There were 2 fielders in the ring. She's perfectly placed it between them. England 8 for none after 1 over, of course, chasing this revised target after we had a little bit of rain here at Lord's. A target of 119 off 14 overs. 4 overs of power play, where Australia can only have 2 fielders outside the inner ring. So they'll want to make the most of those remaining 3. Were you ever in a position like this, Alex, in a rain-affected run chase when you were a player?
Yeah, quite a few, and it's always hard to understand how the numbers come out in the wash. And we've often sort of felt that bowling first is the way to go, and chase when it's a rain-affected game. England winning the toss today and choosing to have a bowl.
It's Darcy Brown from the pavilion end. Fast Australian bowler. She's over the wickets, full, and an ugly shot from Danny Wyatt, who managed to scamper to the bowler's end. She found the fielder at mid-on, but England here recognising they have to take every opportunity here just to pick up those singles. I love that idea of you don't know how it's going to come out the wash. Sometimes the calculations, it feels like there was a red sock hidden among the white wash. And you go, how on earth has this happened? I tried to use one of those Duckworth-Lewis calculators the other day, one of the dodgy ones you find online, and it was awfully confusing.
And I sometimes wonder, is it men's cricket the stats are based on?
As Brown's bowling to Wyatt there, and it's down the leg side again, called wide by the umpire. And England move on to 10 for none.
So just having some difficulty with the control here. Maybe the greasy ball, difficult to get that control.
Well, Australia in this series so far has got 26 extras. Has a bit of bounce, just gets high on Wyatt there. She guides the ball to backward point. It's a dot ball, better length there from Darcy Brown. Yeah, so in Australia, I mean, they've been quite erratic, and actually since the start of 2022 they've bowled 189 wides, an average of just over 7 per match, which is actually the highest of the top 10 ranked teams. So you've got a team who are dominating T20 cricket, but they are bowling the most wides. As Brown's bowling, and it's a thick edge down to deep third. There's protection on the boundary for Australia, so it'll just be a single. 11 for none, the score now for England.
Yeah, certainly something that they will want to tidy up on. Australia know that they can be even better, which is a scary thought for all other nations.
As Brown makes her way back to the top of her mark, 108 more runs required by England.
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. 2 of the wides on the Oval went for 5 wides. One of the byes went for 4. That was the difference in the end.
As Brown's in, it's a shorter ball, hooked into the onside. There's no one out there in the deep. 4 runs to Sophia Dunkley. Fist bump from her teammate in the middle. These boundaries crucial for England. It's a tactic which has been used by Australia, Alex, across this series during the test match, and a few of the England players have shown that they can be quite vulnerable to the shorter ball, particularly off the pace of Darcy Brown, who consistently clocks over 70 miles per hour.
Yeah, Sophia Dunkley getting out to a short ball at the Oval. There was at least one other dismissal with the short ball, but I think, Sophia would have learnt that, okay, they're going to keep coming at me, and they're looking to score at all times.
There's been no changes to the field after that boundary, as down the leg side again, a brilliant take from Alyssa Healy, who's really working hard behind the stumps there. You could almost see the ball there just clinging on in her fingertips as she had a full stretch dive behind the stumps. 3rd wide so far for Australia.
Yeah, outstanding keeping here. So with the wides, it's certainly keeping the captain busy behind the stumps.
Not only does she have the trouble of captaincy and wicket keeping, they're saying, here we go, we're going to make it a little bit harder for you. This is straying onto the hip of Dunkley, who casually works the ball down to deep fine leg. Shoot does the fielding, and it's a wayward throw into Healy again, which flies over her head. Not costly for Australia in the end, and England 17 for none. Getting towards the end of this 2nd over.
So Wyatt, she just loves pace on, so she won't be thrown at all by the pace of Darcy Brown. The quickest in the Australian bowling attack. You just see Elise Perry just helping out her younger fast bowling mate with some sawdust at the landing spot. The legend of world cricket doing the dirty work there, Elise Perry.
That's how you know you've
anything
made
for the
it
team.
For Darcy Brown, she'll be going, wow. The hero that is Elise Perry, putting down sawdust for me. What a moment. She's in for the final ball of the second over, and opening the face of the bat is Wyatt. A great bit of work from the fielder at backward point. Keeps that to a dot ball. Could have very easily been runs out towards the boundary for England, and Wyatt just frustrated there she couldn't beat the fielder. At the end of the second over, England 17 for none. A further 102 more runs required and just 12 overs remaining. I've always wondered when they bring the sawdust out that, you know, when you walk into a pet store and you smell the sawdust and it smells a bit like guinea pigs. When they're out there in the middle, does the pitch now smell a bit like a guinea pig enclosure? Maybe rabbits, if they prefer that. Maybe I just have a very powerful sense of smell, Alex. Who knows? It's going to be Ash Gardner introduced into the attack very early on. She's been brilliant for Australia so far in this Ashes series, and we do just have confirmation there on the big screen in front of us that the attendance for today's game at Lord's, 21,610 fans who have packed themselves into Lord's today, and it's been fantastic. That's close to 60,000 across this T20 series so far. Gardner in, and Dunkley there just chipping the ball up slightly, bounces just before the fielder at backward point. It's a dot ball. What a brilliant attendance.
Well, I heard Claire Connor speak at the 25-year celebration of the Ashes Trophy.
As Gardner bowling into the pads of Dunkley, was looking to give herself room. Gardner followed her, and in the end, England get through for what is signalled to be a leg bye. Score moves on to 17 for none. So 18 for none. There we go.
The 2017 World Cup final, England v India here, was a record crowd for a women's cricket match here in the UK, and then we're just seeing every time that record be surpassed. So we had at Edgbaston an amazing crowd, then at Oval, and now here at Lord's.
Gardner to Wyatt, who's driving the ball through the offside for 4. There's a packed offside ring. She pierces the gap between extra cover and mid-off. That's what Danny Wyatt does so well, Alex. We saw it at the Oval. She's amazing with those offside shots.
Well, she is not intimidated one bit by these Australian bowlers. She's hit T20 international hundreds against Australia, a famous one at Manuka Oval, which helped England draw the series with Australia.
As Gardner into Wyatt again. Flighted delivery. This time she goes aerial. The same result. As the ball dribbles into the boundary cushion. She didn't quite get all of that, Danny Wyatt, but she didn't need to. She cleared the inner ring. And consecutive boundaries. Just what England needed. They're 26 for none. Chasing down that revised target of 119. They have just a further 93 more runs to go.
She's so hard to bowl to because it's so free through the offside. Pretty much that's where she's lining up, and there's no deep fielders on that side.
As Gardner's bowling, giving herself room, cutting the ball straight to point. That's what you say, Alex, there, describing the field as a mid-off, extra cover, point and a backward point, but a massive gap there at cover, which is clearly there to lure Danny Wyatt in.
And also 5 fielders on the leg side, even though she's such a strong offside player. So I'd draw one across.
Flat delivery, dragged down by Gardner and Wyatt, who doesn't manage to beat the fielder at mid-wicket. The end of the third over, England 26 for none. 93 more runs required. I mean, it's been a trend across domestic cricket when Danny Wyatt's playing for the Vipers, opening the batting, that a lot of the time you'll see spin introduced early, but you will see, you know, teams aim at almost that thigh pad. It was obviously a rumour which went around quite early in her batting career to just try and cramp her up a bit there, but she's using the crease quite nicely here and still opening up that offside. Do you think that's something, I guess, she's become more confident in doing across the years, Alex?
Yeah, she's happy to give up her stumps. There's been no variation in bounce. I just think Australia missed a trick there. Yes, you can bowl tight lines, set her too deep on the leg side, but I think you can afford having an extra one on the circle on the offside.
Megan shoots back into the attack, and Dunkley's advancing down the pitch, clubbing the ball to mid-on and getting off strike. Looked for the aerial option there, but didn't manage to find the right trajectory over the fielder there. Megan Shoot bowling with a deep square leg, a deep mid-wicket, and again that open spot at cover here. So Australia certainly have a plan here to both these England openers, but it's about their execution. England 27 for none. Shoot into Danny Wyatt. Bowls full, and this time she drives past the inner ring again. Two fielders in pursuit for Australia, but the ball finds the boundary. And Danny Wyatt says, you leave me that gap, I'm going to get the ball through it. England 31 for none. Is there going to be a change in the field? Surely.
I just sometimes feel Australia are a bit of a dog with a bone. They're not willing to adjust. And from the Oval game, we saw that every time Megan Shoot bowled straight, even around the wicket into middle and leg, Danny Wyatt was happy to get inside the line and hit through the offside. You don't need a mid-wicket in the circle here. We can use another one on the circle on the offside.
England need 88 more runs here at Lord's. Shoot bowling to Wyatt. It's flashed over the head of point for another boundary. Danny Wyatt here is continuing from her fine form at Wednesday at the Oval. And she's providing the fireworks for England here at Lord's. She's 22 off 12. Surely a change here for Australia, but they remain the same. Those two fielders on the deep on the leg side. That gap's still open. And England now 84 runs required. Still 10 wickets in hand. And Danny Wyatt has the licence to just throw her hands at the ball. Shoot. She's in again to Wyatt. He this time drives, finds the fielder at mid-off, and it's a dot ball.
So this is where you start to think, how do I get out of my over with most minimal damage? And I think you could almost bowl to the offside for Danny Wyatt. There's still two deep fielders on the leg side, no adjustment, and we've seen plenty of boundaries from Danny Wyatt's bat through the cover point region this series already.
She's on strike again to Shoot, and this time edges the ball fine past the short third, and another boundary to Danny Wyatt. England coasting along here. They're 39 without loss, and suddenly that revised target of 119 is just 80 now. That's an entirely intentional shot from Danny Wyatt there. She's shown she's got the power, Alex, and now she's got the deft touch.
Yeah, well, this is where there's just been no adjustment throughout this over. No field change whatsoever. Still going with 4 on the offside and 5 on the leg side. Continuing to go as straight as possible, probably to leg stump.
Shoot into Wyatt. Shorter delivery. She's edged it behind. The breakthrough for Australia so desperately needed. And Danny Wyatt, who is coasting along for England, goes for 26 of just 15. What a way to finish the power play for Australia. And it was a slower ball, pace taken off it. Got high on Danny Wyatt there, Alex.
It was a good adjustment. They stuck with the field, didn't they? But they were looking to potentially get out of that over with a bouncer. Okay, show something different to Danny Wyatt. She went for it. She got a faint edge. But has she just done enough to set the tone for this run chase? 26 off 15.
The question, Alex, that if they had that deep cover almost from the start, and you wonder how many times the ball's actually gone to deep mid-wicket, it hasn't at all. But if Australia had that deep cover out, how many runs would have been saved? England at this point may be looking more around 22 for none rather than 39 before the fall of the wicket.
Well, I mean, the fact they got the wicket at the end, hats off. But yeah, personally, I feel like Australia could have done some damage mitigation there. Anyway, big wicket of Wyatt brings Nat Sivabrunt to the crease. Wow, what a powerful player. We saw for the first time Nat bowl a full complement of overs. She has been struggling with that knee injury. It hasn't so much affected her batting, though.
No, she scored 7 in the first T20 at Edgbaston and 23 at the Oval on Wednesday. She's shown just some signs of form in this format, but she'll want to contribute for England here today. Brown back into the attack. It's skied in the air, point underneath it. A second wicket falls for England. 2 in 2 balls. And is this the opening Australia needed? It was a shorter delivery, stepping back, having a swipe, and Sophia Dunkley trudging off the pitch. Both of England's openers gone, looking to play that pull shot. It caught the top edge, and a comfortable catch taken by Jess Jonathan at point. England 39 for 2, still need a further 80 runs.
2 in 2 balls. Nice little passage here for Australia. That's twice in 2 games that Sophia Dunkley's got out to a short ball from Darcy Brown, so she'll have to have a look at that. It is difficult because if Australia are going to bowl short, that's a way that they can dot up England, and Dunkley needs to find a way to be more effective in scoring and potentially keeping the ball on the ground. Is it just guiding it to third, get off strike? Is it chipping it over the keeper's head? But the pull shot, when it's directed over her right shoulder with that bouncer, is not working.
Alice Capsey comes to the middle for England, and Capsey, who's in desperate need of runs here for England. Her last 5 T20 innings resulting in just 17 runs. Her last big score against Ireland in Hull in the T20 World Cup earlier this year, where she scored 51. She'll desperately want to make a score for England like that today. And again, she's a player who's shown that vulnerability to the shorter ball, Alex. So maybe Darcy Brown here will follow up with another shorter delivery. Capsey, the new batter, will be on strike as Brown charges in past the umpire, bowls, fuller delivery, which Capsey guides to the right of point. And it's a dot ball. You can just almost feel the momentum here, Alex, just shift a little bit.
Yeah, and through some fantastic fielding from Jess Jonathan at point. She's one of the stalwarts, I guess. I used to get that word. It's not a great one. But anyway, she's been such a servant for this team, and she's throwing her body around at point. She's just taken a sky ball catch.
As Brown, shorter ball and getting on top of the bounce as Capsey. Just a bit of pace being taken out of that delivery by the surface there.
Yeah, I think the short plan is a square field set, so deep point, deep square, deep 45 and a deep third, bowling into the pitch, nice and straight lines, and just using the surface a little bit to their advantage. Occasionally it just holds a little bit, making the pull shot quite difficult.
Brown to Capsey, gives herself room and slaps the ball through the offside, but there's protection in the deep now for Australia, who unable to spread their field outside the power play. It will just be a single, and England need a further 79 more runs to stay within this Ashes series. Of course, if Australia win tonight, then they'll retain the Ashes. England are just fighting for their chances to carry this series into the one-day internationals, of course, which are all in sold-out venues at Bristol, Southampton and Taunton. Brown in, and Siva Brunt just giving herself room, guiding the ball out to deep cover. Will pick up a single. Both players in the middle there now off the mark. And England score 41 for 2.
Well, Siva Brunt, so crucial for this run chase to keep her team calm. She's someone who's been there in pressure situations so often for all sorts of franchise teams around the world.
As final ball of this 5th over is chipped in the air and just past the point fielder. Jonathan almost thought she was in the game again, but good running from England secures them 2 runs at the end of that Darcy Brown over. England 43 for 2, requiring a further 76 more runs. Alex Blackwell, how do you see this game panning out? And then into the commentary box, you'll be joined by Emily Windsor.
Well, I think this is going to be a final over thriller. That's what I'm thinking. I think the crowd is going to play a part. There'll be times where England will be on top. We've seen Australia fight back with 2 wickets in 2 balls, but a nice start there from Danny Wyatt to get this run chase going. And it looks like the outfield, despite the rain, it's not slowed it down too much. In some ways, it feels like it's sped up. So I think chasing under lights, you probably got a bit of an advantage. The ball may come on a little bit better off the pitch as well.
Going to see spin from the pavilion end. And it will be the left arm spinner of Jonathan as Siva Brunt gives herself room and sweeps that through the onside for 4. She stepped over to create an angle, and she's on to 5 now, 47 for 2.
Well, I think this was a premeditated shot from Siva Brunt, just getting outside the line, deep and across in the crease, and sweeping basically off middle stump.
Jonathan round the wicket in, that's down the leg side again. This time it's gone the other side of the fine leg fielder, but Darcy Brown does well to keep it to a single. Siva Brunt to 6. 72 required then from 53 balls.
Always nice to get a boundary early in the over. Capsey can just settle in here a little bit, try and hit space, make sure that she scores off every ball faced, but she doesn't have to go mad here. Try and find a partnership with Siva Brunt.
Leg side field open then as Jonathan in, that's straight and that's hit up to long on for a single. She's showing intent, but isn't contact. Well, there she's on 4, 70 off 51 balls.
I mean, this is how Alice Capsey plays. She goes 100% at the ball, but I feel like intent can be shown in so many different ways.
Jonathan into Siva Brunt, full toss, and that's hit into the onside. It skips on to long on. That's very well fielded out there by Annabelle Sutherland. 69 off 50 balls. 50 up for England. And the crowd are enjoying that. It's come off 5.4 overs.
Well, handy run rate, going at 10s.
Jonathan around the wicket to Capsey. She's hit hard into the onside. That's going to be a big one. That's the biggest hit we've seen all night by Alice Capsey. And this is what she can do. She's not afraid to take on those sweepers. She's on to 10 off 6. 63 needed off 49 balls for England to keep their Ashes alive.
Maybe just go for it, Alice. Wow. I mean, she was a teenager coming in for her first professional game and hits a 50 at Lord's in the 100. So, I mean, she knows what this feels like out here. This is a home ground for her, isn't it?
Well, she's actually an Oval Invincible, so it's the rivals. It's the rivals, Alex. Jonathan in again, round the wicket. That's straighter and pushed up to mid-off by Alice Capsey. That's good batting for me. Smart batting. She takes a single, so that's 62 required, 48 balls for England. But that's more of the Alice Capsey I want to see. I think previously in these last 2 T20s, we've seen her go with that intent, and she finds a boundary, then she gets out by trying to do the same thing. That, to me, Alex, was smart.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like with this partnership, they're so dangerous. Don't really want to lose a wicket just now. They've lost 2 back-to-back quite quickly. But, you know, John Lewis and Heather have asked their team to attack and to risk losing to give themselves a chance to stay in this Ashes. That's what they're going to do. It's going to be Sutherland. We'll see plenty of short stuff here. We'll see some cross-seam deliveries looking to get a little bit of jag off the pitch. Maybe one to skid and stay low.
She's bowling from the media centre end to Capsey. That's outside the off stump, a thick outside edge, but down to a wide third. She picks up a single. She's on to 12 off 8 deliveries, 61 off 47 required for England. That was a big bat swing though, wasn't it?
She can hit the ball though, can't she? I mean, the equation is getting nicer and nicer for England here.
Just 2 wickets down. The England openers back in the pavilion as Sutherland in. That's outside the off-stump cut, but only to Jess Jonathan at backward point, who shies at the bowler's end. Sharp fielding this from Australia. This is the much better Australia, the Australia we're used to seeing compared to the Oval at the other night.
Yeah, and I think the person in the hot seat, Jonathan, the ball just keeps going there, and she's picking up cleanly. She's looking to shy at the stumps. Already taken 1 catch.
Sutherland then Right arm over to Siva Brunt. That's pushed into Jess Jonathan yet again at backward point. Good pace from Sutherland. Just means she's right in the game there. Length she's bowling. A change of field. Third comes up. Deep mid-wicket out. What's she going to bowl here? Pace off?
I think she's
Short
going
ball?
to bowl a short ball. For sure.
Sutherland in then. Short ball, and it is pulled out to that deep mid-wicket fielder that they just put out. Grace Harris there does the fielding. Siva Brunt moves to 760 off 44 balls for England. They're 59 for 2. Chasing a revised total of 119 off 14 overs. Saw some rain at the halfway stage, but we've got a game on here. A couple of wickets. Australia are right in this. With Sutherland with 14 on her back. Bowl, short ball, Capsey backs away, plays no shot, and that's given a wide by umpire Sue Redfern. Annabelle Sutherland looks very disappointed in that, as does Alex Blackwell and Alex Hartley.
Look, I'll need to see the replay on this, but I like it. It is a slower ball bouncer, and yeah, look, it does look over the top of the helmet, standing up, so that's a wide.
That's full Yorker length delivery by Sutherland, dug out well by Capsey. They come through for a quick single. 59 off 43 balls then.
But it was a good piece of skill from Sutherland, and we're seeing all her tricks tonight. So that ability to bowl that off-spinner, slower ball, and so the ball is going to tend to go out to that leg side where she's got 3 fielders set, and even draw a false shot on the pull shot.
Fine leg up into the circle then, long on back. Sutherland in, pace off, and that's pushed in the offside. That's skillful batting by Siva. There's a cover out there who's rapid and can't stop it. Megan Shute did all the hard work. She got there, but couldn't pull it back in. 4 runs to England, 54 off 42 balls now.
Well, one of the best fielders out there couldn't chase it down. She's the quickest, Megan Shute. And unfortunately, that dive wasn't good enough to bring that ball back in. Big over there from England.
The crowd are right up and about now. They're really behind this England team here at Lord's. Must-win game for England to keep the Ashes alive. The highlights you can see on the BBC Sport website and app. There's certainly been some moments tonight, but 54 off 42. Alex Hartley, where's your money?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that. All I know, it's going to be a cracker. England are in control of this game for now. Australia, they need a wicket to get themselves back in.
And that's Siva Brunt at the crease. She feels like the key wicket for Australia. She's been here many of times. Skillful, hits 360. 54 off 42 then. Captain Alyssa Healy has called upon Darcy Brown, the pace of Darcy Brown, to bowl her third over. She's bowled 1 for 13 so far. She's into Capsey, full delivery, Yorker delivery, hit down the ground. Good running from Capsey, quick single. Elise Perry does the fielding at mid-off, 53 off 41.
You can just see shots of the England camp, Heather Knight, and the captain. She stood up watching. Nerve-wracking time this for England. Keep their Ashes series alive, their hopes alive to win all the remaining games.
Darcy Brown from that pavilion end to Siva Brunt, gives herself room. Great delivery by Darcy Brown, shapes the ball away from the right-hander. And that's Siva Brunt's trying to be innovative, but misses out.
Such a good bowler, Darcy Brown. She's got that extra pace about her. She's got the variations. A bowler that if you can take for 7 runs and over, I think that's a win. Look to target other bowlers.
I believe this will be her last over with the revised 14 over target. Darcy Brown in again. Nat Siva Brunt gives herself room but swats it to mid-wicket. Another dot ball. This extra pace skidding on. It's challenging for England. 53 from 39 balls. The hum from the crowd. Apprehension. Which way is this going to go? Darcy Brown in. That's full. That's hit hard by Nat Siva to mid-off. Elise Perry running at it this time. No single there. 3 dot balls from Darcy Brown.
Brilliant, brilliant over from Darcy Brown, putting the pressure back on England. England, they need a boundary here. And Darcy Brown bowling full and straight to Siva Brunt.
Australia can regain the Ashes if they win here tonight at Lord's. There's Darcy Brown in, that's full again, gone to mid-wicket. They come through for a quick single, a misfield allows Nat Siva to make it comfortably. Annabelle Sutherland does the tidying up at mid-on, but just 2 singles from this over so far, and 1 ball remains. 52 from 37. The extra pace of Darcy Brown. Short ball here, Alex?
Short ball here, but Capsey has to be proactive. She has to know this is her last ball. Darcy Brown's last ball of the evening. You do not want to lose a wicket.
Brown then pumping in. Smooth action. Bowls full delivery. That's hit over mid-wicket. Was a full toss. Chasing after it and does very well at mid-on. Good, great chase by Annabelle Sutherland. They come back for 3. A direct hit and Capsey would have been gone. Good running from England. 49 off 36 balls then, so 6 overs remain. Alice Capsey there on 17 off 11. That's Siva Brunt just keeping calm.
An exceptional piece of fielding from Annabelle Sutherland. Every run matters when it comes to T20 cricket. She's done so well there to save the boundary.
You see spin into the attack. Ash Gardner, who's had an incredible Ashes series so far with the ball.
Yeah, player of the match in the Test match. 12 wickets. So the current run rate 8.75, the required run rate 8.17. This is going to be a nail biter.
If there's a fence, I'd be sat on it right now as to which way this is going to go. Australia need wickets. Alice Capsey favours spin as Ash Gardner in bowls, uses her feet under edge, and just as England needs some luck, that's gone down to the pavilion boundary for 4.
Well, Ash Gardner cannot believe it. She's got a foul face on, and rightly so. A big old heave from Capsey, looking to go down the ground into the leg side, an inside edge, and it squirts past short fine for 4. Bit lucky there from Alice Capsey and unlucky for Ash Gardner.
For those batting friends, you take them. That is one that will frustrate the bowlers. Says 4 on the scorecard. You say thank you very much. Capsey's raced to 21 off 12 then. Big innings was needed from her today after a poor T20 competition so far. As Ash Gardner in, she gives herself room, hits through the onside. Megan Shoot at deep cover will keep it to a single. Capsey on to 22 off 13 balls, 44 off 34 balls for England.
You do get the sense that this is a big over. This is a big over for England. A reverse sweep potentially from Siva.
Gardner in, that's worked into the leg side. The fielder at backward a square is very fine, because that's where Siva can hit. She keeps it to a single. She's on 14, 43 off 33 balls for England.
The option is there to reverse sweep for Capsey or Siva Brunt with short third and a point.
Capsey plays it well as well. There's Gardner in. She uses her feet again, hits high into the onside. A cry of catch it and drops. Running in there at deep mid-wicket. Should have been taken. The Australians will be disappointed with that. Georgia Wareham out there. And they come back for a couple.
She just hung back for a fraction too long there, Georgia Wareham. I think she thought Capsey got hold of it better than she did. She stayed on the boundary at deep mid-wicket and had to charge in and dive and try and catch the ball. Drop the catch.
And she's in again. Gardner swatted down the ground. That's going to race away for 4. Potentially a good bit of work, but I think that's hit the boundary rope, Alex Hartley. Yes, it has. That's what you call a strap pull.
A straight pull.
Correct. To 37 needed to win of 31 balls for England.
How many off this over so far, Phil?
12.
Yeah, big over. Big over. England needed it as well. And don't get carried away now, England. Get it down to more or less a run of ball. They're on top here. 37 from 31.
Cover up then. There's Gardner in. She goes hard down the ground again, but long off is out. Elise Perry, calm out there, does the fielding. Good over for England. Alice Capsey on 29 off 16. 36 required, 30 balls. England are in a very, very good position here, dare I say it.
They are indeed, and not forgetting England haven't won a T20 series against Australia since 2017. It's been a very long time. I presume that was in the that Ashes out there in 2017. Phil nods his head.
Yeah, England were 8-4 down, weren't they, and won the last 2 T20s.
We drew that Ashes series, but Australia had hold of the Ashes, so they retained them. And then England, to put it politely, have been hammered in every Ashes series so far since then. So a huge chance for England to get on top here. That run rate now just over 7 runs and over. England have got it down well.
That they have. Lord's DJ getting the crowd pumped up with Reach for the Stars. What a tune.
Great tune, to be fair. Throwback.
So lots of hands up in the air in the crowd. The captain has thrown the ball to Annabelle Sutherland from the pavilion end into Capsey bowls, and that's pushed into the offside for a quick single. Good batting from Alice Capsey, smart. She's on 30 now, 35 off 29.
There's almost a hush around Lords, isn't there? A nervous hush.
Eyes, though, are all on the cricket and all the boxes in the stands here tonight. The record crowd. There's Annabelle Sutherland in. That's full, and that's hit up to mid-on. The cry of no from Nat Sivabrunt.
Well, Hypercoast, it's not just England that haven't won a series against Australia since 2017. No side in any format has won against Australia since 2017, ODI or T20.
Annabelle Sutherland into Sivabrunt, short, and that's hit up and over the offside. There's 2 fielders in the ring, but it's plugged. And Beth Mooney comes around and keeps it to a couple. And that's Sivabrunt to 16, 33 off 27. That's just built it up even more. That's how good Australia are at cricket. England winning that second T20 at the Oval. They have a chance.
6 years since Australia have lost a series.
Crazy. The dominant Australian side are under the pump here. As that's in, and that's swatted into the onside. There's 2 fielders out there. Are they going to get there? Great bit of fielding at deep mid-wicket by Ash Gardner. Good running from England, but that certainly saved 2 runs. Nat Sivabrunt on to 18, 31 off 26 balls.
Well, they're the best team in the world, but they are the best fielding team in the world. They very, very rarely make mistakes. And Ash Gardner there, full length dive, saves the boundary. Outstanding piece of fielding. How important could that be for Australia?
Annabelle Sutherland charging in from that pavilion end. Bowled, slower ball, hit high up into the air. Is that going to land safely? Yes, it does. Directly behind them. Maybe a run out. They were thinking of 2, but Alice Capsey said no. 30 needed. 25 balls. The England captain can't even watch.
It's a 50-run partnership from just 34 balls between Capsey and Sivabrunt. And Sivabrunt actually struggling out there in the middle at the minute, struggling to find the boundary. It's Capsey that's done all the damage.
Long on, deep mid-wicket, deep square leg. As Capsey's gone for a paddle over the top of the 3rd man. 1 bounce, 4 runs. This is the Alice Capsey England have been waiting for. She's got a big smile on her face. She's on 34 off 18. 26 required off 24 balls. A few thoughts on that from Alice Capsey. Then you'll be joined by the one and only Henry Moran.
Well, Alice Capsey probably can't give you her thoughts, but I'll give you mine. Oh, it's an outrageous shot from Alice Capsey out in the middle. England, it's a decent over for Australia and then ruined. Alice Capsey gets into position early and goes up and over the offside. She was looking leg side and then adjusts last minute. England 26 from 24 balls. They are in control here, Henry.
They are in control, but as always, as we see the conference taking place between the experienced minds of Talia McGrath and Lisa Healy, and Elise Perry. Economy is the key. Wickets at this stage, England are 2 down. That's not so much the issue for either side, really. It is absolutely for Australia. Can they get an over where there's only 2 or 3 from it? Yeah, wickets or 2 will help that. From England's perspective, can they get this done, and can they get pretty much over the line in the next couple of overs? This is where the game exists. And we're going to see, by the looks of it, Georgia Wareham coming into the attack. A bit of leg spin.
Wasn't required in the second T20. Went around the park in the first T20. A huge moment in this game for Georgia Wareham. The required rate, 6.5 runs per over for England. Wareham here with the ball wet, the wicket slippery. She could get the ball to skid on.
And they're playing a bit of ABBA, because whenever a tense situation is occurring in life, I think ABBA is always required. Just as, take the edge off.
Well, everyone loves a dancing queen, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And the crowd are absolutely loving it. Record-breaking crowd for the 3rd time in 7 days.
Edgbaston record crowd, Oval record crowd, Lord's record crowd. Just shows when it's marketed properly, you get the crowds in.
And not just marketed properly, but when you see a teenager in Alice Capsey reverse scooping the ball over her shoulder for 4 runs in front of 21,000 people, it's something pretty spectacular and special.
And we foolishly mentioned she was under pressure after 5 single-figure scores, didn't we?
We did indeed. And we were on the train down from Headingley earlier, Henry, and there was 2 blokes talking on the train, and one of them said, I watched the Women's Ashes the other day. It was actually very entertaining.
Right then, England need 26 from 24. Wareham bowls, striking the pad, huge appeal for LBW. Alyssa Healy absolutely loved it. It was, I think, googly that from Wareham. Very worse for Australia. It's a dot ball. They're going to talk about it. They might go upstairs as much as anything just to shift some momentum. No, they're not going to.
It looked like it was going down, didn't it? Would have been a waste of a review.
So, Siva Brunt is on 19 from 18. It's been a sort of uncharacteristic innings from her, really. As Wareham comes into bowl, tossed up and skewed away into the offside. There won't be a run there. So 2 dot balls, 26 from 22.
Yeah, just struggling here, Siva Brunt. You can see by her body language, shoulders slumped, frustrated with herself. Just needs 1 boundary here to get her beans flowing.
Here comes Wareham. Siva Brunt hacks the ball into the leg side. She's only going to get 1 as it drops short of Beth Mooney in front of the grandstand. England need 25 from 21.
I think it's beans going, is the saying, not flowing.
I think it might be.
Oh well, we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
I'm never wrong though.
You're never wrong, as we know, ever. You just occasionally make mistakes. Very different. Capsey's on 34. Wareham is walking in now. And tossing that ball up, driven down the ground forcefully. There's a chase on for the fielder. It's going to be stopped by Sutherland. It'll only be 1. It's well struck by Capsey, and England need 24 from 20. The game is still well in their hands, but they have to keep the momentum going. They can't afford an over that only brings... Well, they can afford, but they don't want to risk it.
Well, this is the over Australia needed.
Here comes Wareham. Siva Brunt comes forward, whips the ball without any timing out towards deep mid-wicket for 1.
This is the over Australia needed and wanted. Just 3 runs coming off the over. Wareham, leg spinner, slippery ball, but she's bowling with so much control, cramping both Capsey and Siva Brunt for room.
I wonder if Capsey might take a step to the leg side and try and expose that gap behind square on the offside. She comes down the track instead and has skewed the ball in the air. She'll be taken. No, dropped. And as the throw comes in at the non-striker's end, they run through for a single. England will need 22 from the final 3 overs. Brilliant over from Wareham with just 4 from it. Did it just drop short?
I think it might have just dropped short. If it hasn't, that's the second drop catch for Australia, and they didn't field well in the previous T20. And if that hasn't dropped short, which I think it did, would be another drop catch for Australia.
Alex Blackwell joins us as well. Alex of Australia, how are you feeling?
Probably not quite as good as Alex from England at the moment. I think England are in the box seat. That was a great over. Excellent bravery from Captain Healy. Bring on the leg spinner. So much faith and great control. As you say, our cramping the right-hand bats. Really disappointing that Grace Harris didn't chuck a dive in there for that catch. It didn't quite carry, but she didn't didn't make it, Carrie.
Brave move this from Australia. Megan Schutt back into the attack. England have taken her apart, but it was Danny Wyatt that did the damage, and she is not there anymore. She's so strong through the offside. Schutt actually got her out with the short ball.
She has bowled 2 overs, 1 for 21. England need 22 from 18. It's Capsey on strike. She's on 36. In comes Megan Schutt, and she goes big into the leg side. It could be 6. It will be 6. Massive blow from Alice Capsey. Massive stride towards victory for England.
What a shot from Alice Capsey. Not only is it 6, but it's gone straight into the crowd. That is huge from Alice Capsey. England now need less than a runner ball.
And listen to Lords. The old ground is rocking. And Capsey has deposited Megan Schutt over deep mid-wicket for 6. 16 needed from 17. Capsey goes down the ground, rifle crack off the bat, and it's gone straight and for 4. 12 needed from 16, 2 balls, and England are getting closer.
Well, pace on deliveries, they've gone the distance. Megan Schutt has to go to her leg cutter slower balls. She's a little bit gun shy because Danny Wyatt took them to pieces at the Oval, but this is a different opposition now. It's Alice Capsey, it's Nat Sciver-Brunt, and these two hit to different areas. So I think what we need to see here from Australia is take pace off. Looks like we might actually see full and straight.
In comes Schutt to bowl to Capsey, who waits, hits the ball into the leg side, could be caught, should be, she is! The game twists. Ash Gardner with the catch at deep mid-wicket. Capsey can't believe it, but will get a mighty big hand from this Lord's crowd. England will need 12 from 15. And I think it is the captain, Heather Knight, that will be striding to the middle to try and get England over the line. Well played, Alice Capsey. She scored at a strike rate of 200. She's furious with herself not to have got England over the line, and that slower ball, it was a full toss. She could have hit it anywhere, and she's managed to find the fielder on the boundary.
33.3% of full tosses get wickets. I love it when we get a wicket from a full toss because it can bring out the stats.
Well, it would be brave to bowl a few more here with Captain Heather Knight coming to the crease to meet Vice Captain Sciver-Brunt. Great striking there from Alice Capsey. She'll be disappointed not to finish this off, but this should be England's game from here. 12 required from 15 deliveries. And what Schutt needed to do, she went to the slower ball. Wasn't quite the length she was trying to bowl, but those low full tosses with no pace to work with can actually be very hard to hit.
Well, Capsey's getting a big hug from Danny Wyatt at the far end of the ground. There'll be plenty more hugs for that England team if they can get the 12 runs they need from 15 balls.
She's done the damage, hasn't she, Capsey? Going at a strike rate of 200. They needed somebody like that, England. We thought it was a pretty stiff target, 119 from 14 overs. But Alice Capsey was absolutely phenomenal. And now Australia on the brink of losing their first ever series since 2017.
Phil, dare I ask when Australia last lost back-to-back games?
Yeah, it was part of that 2017 series. That's the last time they lost consecutive T20 internationals.
Righto. England need 12 from 15 and they'll repeat the trick. Heather Knight is on strike, the England captain. With 12 needed from 15 under the floodlights at Lords. Schutt is in. Knight taps the ball into the leg side. That'll do for England. They don't need to be expansive. Singles will get them there. 11 from 14. You're listening to Test Match Special on a bumper day of Ashes cricket as this remarkable Ashes summer continues to twist and turn and age us all.
Well, I just wonder about that easy single into the leg side. So singles will win it for England.
Sciver-Brunt on strike. 11 needed from 14. Here comes Megan Schutt, and that's whipped firmly into the leg side. And it'll be, I think, possibly 4. Has that been saved in the most remarkable fashion by Georgia Wareham? At the very least, it's 2. But it could be one of the best pieces of fielding we've seen all night.
I think it might be 4. Georgia Wareham not sure. So we will have to look at it on the replay.
She's diving full length and she's got the ball in her hand. Now the question is, does it touch her again as she's touching the ropes?
No.
Oh, I don't think it does.
Wow.
I mean, just extraordinary. This Australian team in the field, they save their side 20 runs a game, easy. Siva Brunt on 23 with 9 needed from 13 balls. Loose delivery, but only finds the hand of the fielder at backward square leg. So, 2 overs left. England need 8.
14 runs coming off that Megan Shoot over. Was always going to be a risk bowling her. She's not bowled too well tonight, but as we said, it was Danny Wyatt that took her apart. But also Alice Capsey, 6-4. Remarkable knock.
So, around the ground, the crowd are expectant. We're hearing a bit of Bon Jovi, which is what Grace Harris was singing along to when she walked out and got a first baller the other night at Edgbaston.
Bet she's not singing it now.
I think probably not, but actually she's quite a character.
She probably is.
And also, it is scientifically impossible not to go and sing along with it.
I think it's scientifically impossible not to sing along at any cricket game, to any song that they play.
Do you think? Right then, Wareham's going to bowl, which is not a surprise. She only went for 4 in her previous over. England need 8 from 12, and it'll be Siva Brunt on strike. Potentially 2 blows away from victory. Wareham into bowl to Siva Brunt, who is deep in the crease, flicking the ball towards short fine leg for a single. It'll get Knight onto strike, and England needs 7.
I don't know what you think, Alex, but you need a mid-wicket. Australia need a mid-wicket here. For me, that short third can come into mid-wicket to stop the easy single.
Yeah, I think especially for Knight, perhaps Siva Brunt, she's been in there 24 deliveries now, so more likely to find the boundary, but got to put pressure on somebody.
The Aussies are leaving. The Aussie fans are leaving.
They are.
Come on, guys. Stick around.
See you later.
Something special here.
In their droves, blimey. Reverse sweep attempted, doesn't find the gap. Dot ball. It's nicely struck by Knight. 7 needed from 10.
As Bon Jovi also said, keep the faith.
Well, I know. It's a good point, that, Phil, and a much appreciated gag as well. 7 needed from 10. Anything for you, Alex?
No, I don't know that one.
Here comes Wareham. Knight dances down the track and lofts the ball in the air, clears the infield, 4 runs. Over mid-off, England on the brink. They need 3 from 9 to inflict a first back-to-back defeat for Australia in 6 years. 6 years. That was when Alice Capsey was barely doing her sats.
But this Australia side, they've been dominant for a very, very long time now. But we've started over the last 6 or 7 months to see weaknesses in them, and we've been saying that they are beatable. England are showing that they are beatable now. That massive gulf is getting smaller and smaller.
3 needed. Knight on strike. In comes Wareham. Reverse sweep attempted. She'll get at least 1. Maybe will push for the second, but I think given Siva's knee and Knight's pace, they might just keep it at the single. 2 needed from 8 balls. England very close, and there's now smiles and hugs in that dugout for an England side. But no, barring something truly extraordinary, they're taking this to the ODIs. Wareham bowling. Bowser! Siva Brunt got in a tangle, and England lose a wicket. So, it's 2 from 7. Surely not.
No. This Ashes series, there's been so many twists and turns in it. Any team could have won the test match. Australia got over the line. That first T20, Australia got over the line on the final ball. England win the second by 3 runs. I reckon there's another twist in this now, Al.
I think Australia just want to push this to the final over. They'll feel like that's almost a win in terms of where they're at this point in the game. Anything can happen once you get to that final over. Now, some fantastic bowling from Wareham, keeping the stumps in play, getting that ball to skid on.
Well, Nick Friend, the journalist, has just tweeted, Alice Capsey was 12 years old and Theresa May was Prime Minister the last time that Australia lost a bilateral T20 international series, which is quite a stat. Amy Jones joins the action with 2 needed and 7 balls for England to do it. They're 4 down. Wickets is not an issue. Runs and only 2 of them. That is the equation. Massive gap on the leg side still. I think they are bringing a mid-wicket in. Now, I wonder if Amy Jones will look to try and reverse sweep this because there's no protection at short third.
Just edge it.
2 needed. Wareham with 1 ball left of her spell. 2 needed from 7. Amy Jones gives herself some space, gets in a horrible tangle as she tried to clear it out of St John's Wood. And here we are going to the final over. 2 needed from 6.
Amy Jones trying to do it in one shot, trying to hit that. She give it the kitchen sink, if not the whole kitchen.
Yeah, that was the full extension, wasn't it? Blimey. Right then. Well bowled Georgia Wareham in the meantime. Jones wound up. She's almost bowled there. If she'd got hold of it, it was game over.
It's a remarkable spell of bowling from Georgia Wareham because the ball's wet, it's slippery, it's been raining. For a leg spinner, that's incredibly tough to keep hold of that ball, not let the ball slip out of your hand.
Well, we're down to the final over again. 2 needed from 8. 1 takes the scores level, and then we see a super over hove into view, but we do need to be done by 10:30 because this being St John's Wood, that is when the floodlight cut-off is. And people that have bought houses here have just been reminded that there's a cricket ground. Who would have thought it? 117 for 4, 2 needed from 6 balls.
Well, Jess Jonathan, remarkable T20 bowler, unbelievable death bowler. She's going to bowl this final over.
England need 2 from 6. That's all.
The field is up.
Here comes Jonathan bowling to Knight, who's paddling. Big appeal for LBW. It's given! 2 from 5 balls, and England have lost their captain. She's reviewing it, but we're not done yet.
This Ashes series is on a knife edge.
They needed 2 from 8. 2 from 8.
Umpire to director. We have a player review for LBW. Original decision is out. I've checked front foot. It's a fair delivery. Can I have front on, please?
So, we see Jonathan front on vision now. I mean, to me, that feels out, and I can't see how that's not going to be
ball
out.
is passed close to the bat. Can I have ultra
just
edge,
be missing
please?
off stump.
Quicker ball, wasn't it, from Jonathan?
Okay, roll
Full
that
and
through.
straight.
There's no bat on
So
it.
clear gap between bat and ball. Just keep rolling through to the pad. Okay, satisfied, no bat involved. Can I have ball tracking when ready, please?
Here we go. Here is ball tracking. Well, it sort of swings in a
So
bit.
Pitching
Umpire's
in
call.
line. Impact is umpire's call.
Wickets umpire's call.
Umpire's call.
So Knight is out.
So I'll go back on field to Russell. You can stay with your decision of out. Stand by. On screen. Signal now.
Who's next in for England, Alex?
Danny Gibson.
Oh, third game in England colours. Ashes on the line.
Duck in the first game.
Duck in the first game. Record crowd, and you're at Lord's.
Where's Sophie Eccleston?
Well, Danny Gibson comes to the middle. 2 from 5. How are you feeling, Alex?
Well, I've stood up because you know what I get like when England take games so close and it gets down to the wire. My heart's beating really fast. I'm an anxious mess, and I don't want to watch, but I have to because it's my job.
You do, I'm afraid.
Well, you got Blackwell, you can do
How are
it.
you feeling, Alex Blackwell?
I'm feeling quite relaxed. I mean, this is England's to lose. I thought that one just might have been missing. I'm very surprised to see the ball straightening from there, but perhaps the slope on the pitch might have helped. But what a bowler to bring in this situation. Jess Jonathan, she bowls at the depth for all the teams that she plays for, the Brisbane Heat.
Still 2 needed from 5 balls. Here comes Jonathan. Gibson on strike. Reverse sweep. She'll get at least 1. She should get 2. And she will get 2. England have won the game. They're still in the Ashes. England win. Australia have lost a bilateral series for the first time in 6 years.
Wow, Danny Gibson, brave shot to play. Brave shot to play, but she gets the reward. It goes for 4. England win by 5 wickets. They've beaten Australia. Their Ashes campaign is still alive. We said it would take something remarkable from Heather Knight and her troops. Well, it's been 2 brilliant games of T20 cricket, and Australia lose for the first time in 6 years.
And we said at the Oval 3 nights ago, Alex, Australia do not lose. They certainly don't lose twice in a row. This England team might just be doing something special. They got close in the Test match. They got close in the first T20. And back-to-back games under the lights in London, England have humbled an Australia side who had to turn towards that grandstand and see their supporters trooping out before the end. The times they are changing, Alex Blackwell.
Well, I see this England side scrapping, and that's what Australia do so well. They push and push and push. The game is never over, but England have held their nerve. They've scrapped. They've got themselves to a T20 series victory, What a moment to do it. Packed house at Lord's. Special night from Heather Knight. What a night for her. It is a special moment for England, and pressure on Australia now going into the one-day series. They've got to win it.
They've got to win every game. That remains the same. But it has been England's most successful Ashes series in a long while, even at this point, Alex. As I get out of the way, I'm going to head downstairs to see if we can get some reaction. And I'm going to hand over, after some more from you, to Melissa Story.
Well, it really has. The 2017 Ashes, when England last won a series against Australia, a T20 series, the last time Australia lost any format series, the last time they lost, the Ashes were drawn. It was 8-8, but Australia had the Ashes, so they retained them. England haven't had the Ashes since 2014. It's going to take something special. It's going to take something remarkable. But England, they are fighting. They are scrapping. And the fans now believe. You can see the England girls dancing to the crowd. Nat Sciver-Brunt, Lauren Winfield-Hill, Sophie Eccleston. They all go straight over to their families. They will be so, so happy.
3 games to go. They're all sold out. Bring it on.
And England said after that test match that they were in it with a chance. They were going to keep fighting till the end, Alex. And they've come out and they've performed on that attitude. And this is what they said when John Lewis came in. And they said, we're going to, have a change of mindset. Australia are beatable, and they've proven that 2 games in a row.
Yeah, they have indeed. It's that self-belief, and I think that's the self-belief that John Lewis has made this team. He's made the team believe in themselves. He said, go out there, play aggressive cricket. The Australians, they're human. They make mistakes. Yes, they're a remarkable cricket team. Yes, they are the best in the world. Yes, they don't lose or didn't lose cricket matches. But the way this team believe in themselves, it's almost like what have we been doing for all these years?
Absolutely, and we're joined again by Emily Windsor. Emily, watching that on as a player who's been in this situation so many times, almost dubbed the finisher for the Southern Vipers, how nervous would Danny Gibson, playing her 3rd international game, have been when she came into bat, and to play a reverse sweep as well on her first ball?
Yeah, look, she's gone to one of her strengths, isn't she? I think walking out there, she'd have heard the roar of the crowd, but all she'd be focusing on is the job that was in hand. And England needed her to get 2 runs, and that she did first ball. And all I'll say is what a feeling she'd be having now to be out there, new into that team, to be the one to hold their hand up and say, yep, I've won the game for us. We're still in the Ashes. She'll remember and hold on to that for a very long time, I can tell you that much. But what a future she's going to have. And this is just the audacity of young cricketers now. You're out here, packed house in front of Lords, and you're just like, yeah, I'm just going to reverse sweep Jess Johnson first ball. Cheers.
And of course, the importance of the 100 and almost the platform it's been able to build in the crowds. And that almost a few years ago, if we look at some of the domestic games, would a player or a young player such as Alice Capsey or Danny Gibson have been put off by a crowd this large? But they've got used to these, playing in the 100, playing in the Women's Premier League in the likes of Alice Capsey. Alice Capsey was in need of a big innings today, Emily. She'd struggled a bit in her last 5 T20 innings, only scoring 17 runs. Just how much would that innings have meant to her? Really on the stage as well, where she, of course, propelled herself into limelight at just 16 years old. She's proved it again here, aged 18, how brilliant she's been.
Yeah, look, I think Capsey is a player that is fearless, and she would have absolutely loved that moment. And we know what she can do. That's why she's playing in an England shirt.
We're going to head pitchside now to Henry Moran.
Thank you very much indeed, Melissa. So victory for England in the 3rd and final T20 international to keep their Ashes dream alive. They knew coming into the T20 series their margin for error was minimal. They lost narrowly at Edgbaston, but victories at the Oval and this evening at Lord's in front of a record crowd of 21,000 sees England heading into the ODIs knowing, yes, they still have to win every match or 2 and a tie or no result. But they are still fighting in this Ashes series. The England run chase was rain reduced. 14 overs, they needed 119 runs. They got there. Yes, there was a wobble right at the end, but they won by 5 wickets. A boundary reverse swept by Danny Gibson to her first ball saw England win by 5 wickets. Amazing scenes on the boundary edge as England celebrate. We will be getting reaction shortly for you. But Alex Blackwell former Australia captain, over 250 appearances for Australia. We've seen something that hasn't happened for 6 years, and that's Australia losing a bilateral series.
Yeah, it's a big one. Australia lose a T20 series. We don't often say that. But what I see with England, they win big games at Lords. So packed stadium. They just won a 50-over World Cup in front of a packed house in 2017. Seems like this place really lifts them, and they want to make a statement whenever they play here. The crowd has been entertained, and boy, this Ashes is still alive. It's fantastic.
It is a remarkable scene. We're right by the players here on the boundary edge, where they are embracing friends and family. And I think, given the fact that England went into this white ball series knowing that they had to pretty much perform a miracle, I don't think any of us thought we'd be at this point at Lords seeing this Ashes series still alive.
Yeah, I mean, I think Australia will be stunned by their back-to-back losses. They haven't felt that for a very, very long time. This was a tough game for them. They just didn't put enough runs on the board up front. The wicket was a little bit slower. They didn't adjust as well as they could. The rain, maybe that played into the favour of England. They won the toss. They elected to bowl first in what was going to likely be a rain-affected game. So advantage England in that respect, but wow, what performances. The young Capsey, she seems to like batting here, doesn't she? She just smashes it into the crowd, and what an entertaining knock that was.
46 from 23 from the player of the match, Alice Capsey, who was just 13 years old the last time that Australia lost a bilateral series. Theresa May was Prime Minister here in the UK, which tells its own story, and it really has been one of the more memorable occasions that we've seen in the women's game. And we will get some reaction for you in just a moment. We'll hear from hopefully both captains, with Heather Knight unquestionably very relieved she was out LBW at the start of the final over. England were in a very healthy position, needing just 2 runs from 8 balls. Eventually it became 2 from 5 balls, and that reverse sweep from Danny Gibson got England over the line. So that's how they found themselves victorious. They saw Australia setting a target of 156. That was rain reduced once we saw the 14 overs given, and England a target of 119. It was a rapid start from Capsey, from Danny Ward, I should say, and Sophia Dunkley. Then Capsey came in and played this brilliant knock, and that got England close and eventually over the line with just a wobble or two to get there. It feels to me, Alex, that there might just be a little bit of a shift in the world order of the women's game. Yes, Australia are comfortably still the best side, but they're no longer the unbeatable side.
I think England have definitely showed that. Even in the losses they've had, the Test match and the first T20, they were bloody close games, and I think well played for all the squad. They've had to rely on a few additional players, and I think the way that John Lewis and Heather Knight have asked their team to play, they've stuck by it even under pressure.
Yeah, really impressive. We will be speaking to Alice Capsey shortly, and she's just puffing out her cheeks. I think she's looking around this ground and wondering quite what's happened as much as anything, because we've spoken a lot about the existence of England women international games at Lords. They were far too rare a thing for a long time. You've played a few at this famous old ground, but England went a long while without doing so. But seeing the crowd here tonight, Alex, seeing 21,000 in after crowds of 20,000 apiece at Edgbaston and the Oval, regardless of who won any of those games, it's been some week.
I think well played to the England team, because given an opportunity to take the field here at Lords, they've put on fantastic matches. They've won in front of a home crowd. I think as well the Australians, of course, their performances have pushed England to have to deliver their best, and they have. And the England fans, they'll be expecting this from now on, and the depth of this England side should be able to deliver for years to come.
Well, let's see if we can grab a word with someone from the England team. The presentation's about to start, but Heather Knight, the England captain, wanders over. And Heather, 6 years it's been since Australia have lost 2 games in a bilateral series. That's some achievement.
Yeah, it is. We talked yesterday about wanting a series win in the T20, so obviously trying to win it 2-1. I'm really proud of the girls. I think obviously the way we went about it, I think, was really good. Actually, the pitch was actually quite different to what we thought. Usually at Lords it can be a little bit slow, spin dominates a little bit more, and it actually felt like seam was quite hard to get away, hence juggling the bowlers a little bit. And I think the really pleasing thing is that when someone doesn't have a great day, someone else is stepping up, and we're able to kind of have a real team performance And yeah, what an atmosphere again, record again, great night.
119 off 14 overs. How did you feel about that as a target at the halfway stage?
I thought it was a bit high actually. I was hoping for a bit less. Yeah, like obviously shortened games is what it is. We were just preparing for anything, and it probably isn't that nice waiting around when you're in the middle of a game. You stop starting a little bit and you're trying to relax, but also switch yourself back on obviously when you do have to go back. But yeah, it felt like a really good wicket. Like it was easy to hit down the ground. I thought the way Sophia and Danny in particular started really put the intent to the Australians and made the most of that 4-over power play. And then Alice was awesome. She's probably hasn't played how she wants to in the last two, but for her to come out like that, whack at 6 very early in her innings and really take the game on was exactly how we wanted her to play. So really pleased for her.
What is it about playing at Lords? You seem to capitalise on these special occasions and lift a few pegs.
Yeah, well, I haven't actually won many games at Lords. Before the World Cup final, I don't think I'd ever won here in an England shirt. So, yeah, I think just today it was all about trying to soak it in a little bit as well, trying to enjoy the atmosphere. Like the support's been so good. Like we've absolutely loved it, and I think it's credit to both teams, the cricket that we played, to get people out and get a real momentum behind the series. And still obviously a long way to go, and we switched to ODI formats now. But I think the way we fought back in this series is really pleasing. We felt like we're not far away, and once we got that one win, felt like we've got over that hurdle a little bit, and yeah, hopefully we can keep them going.
Have Australia lost a bit of the fear factor that every side inevitably senses when a team is that dominant?
They're still a very good side. They keep coming at you. They've got so much depth, and the amount of all-rounders they have mean they can use different matchups when they need it. But yeah, I think there's just belief in our side, belief that we're playing some really good cricket, belief that we're matching them cricket-wise, and I think previously it was probably about the mentality, and I think we've worked really hard on that as a group leading into the series, and I think those fruits of our labour, I guess, are starting to show now.
How much did the toss play a part tonight? Do you think the conditions changed once we had a bit of rain?
Yeah, I think it was a really important toss. The stats have quite a big swing for chasing anyway here. It's definitely a good move to chase. I finally got to win a toss and do what I wanted. But yeah, I think under lights, obviously a bit of rain as well, probably skidded on a little bit. I still think it was a pretty good wicket all the way through. Slightly different to what we thought, as I said earlier, but yeah, potentially it gave us the slightly better of the conditions.
2 needed from 8 balls became 2 needed from 5 balls. Was there ever any worries, nervousness?
No, I don't think so. When you get it down to that small amount, you're pretty confident it's going to go your way, and it's just about finishing the job. I was a bit frustrated that I managed to get out there. I'm not quite sure I sit in the stumps, but one of those things, like, yeah, we just wanted to finish the game quickly and do it in a way, and Danny Gibson loved that she came out and reverse swept first ball, and that's the sort of confidence in a player that we want to play to their strengths.
Where will you be looking for the most improvement going into this must-win ODI series?
Yeah, just a new format. I still don't think we've played the perfect game yet. I think obviously that last over cost us a few with a few drops and things like that, and probably having fielded so well all series, I think probably tonight was our worst performance in the field, but it doesn't matter. I'm not really thinking too much about that, and I think now it's just flipping to ODI format, getting our skills where they need to be, and just trying to keep this momentum going.
Emma, many congratulations. Thank you so much. And we're joined now by player of the match, Alice Capsey. Big smile on your face. What a night.
Oh, what a night. To play at the home of cricket is a privilege in itself, and the series is still alive, which is amazing.
Going out there, it looked as though you were totally fearless, that the occasion didn't seem to bother you, the opponent didn't seem to bother you. What was the mentality? What was the message to you?
I think I've just said it. The way I play and the way I'm backed within this team is to go out there and try and put the bowlers under as much pressure as possible, and sometimes I'll come off and sometimes I won't, and tonight was my night, which is amazing.
Can you give us some insight? Amazing partnership with Nat Siva-Brunt. So what sort of conversations were you having out there? Was she telling you to just back yourself?
Yeah, I think me and Nat complement each other quite well in just the way we play and how different we are. But yeah, we were having conversations, and all we need is one boundary and over, really. So we're trying to keep it as simple as possible. And yeah, I thought Nat played brilliantly, so no, it was brilliant.
She's a belter!
That's Sophie Eccleston there joining us, an impromptu contribution from Sophie Eccleston. Last time Australia lost 2 games in a series, you were 13 years old. I mean, it's quite an achievement beating this Australia side.
Yeah, it's my first time playing Australia, and I just wanted to contribute in this T20 series because I wasn't too happy with the first 2 games. So yeah, to get a T20 series win against them, the success they had over the last, I think it's 6 years, they haven't lost a series. So yeah, it's huge, and I mean, now it's all to play for in the ODIs.
Alice, I'm just checking, are you old enough to drink that magnum of sparkling, and how are you going to celebrate tonight?
Oh, I absolutely am old enough, so you don't need to worry about that. And yeah, I'm sure we'll have a few drinks and celebrate the T20 series win, and kind of we take each game as it is, so we don't look too far ahead. So we'll enjoy the series win and then look to the ODIs probably in a day or so time.
Many congratulations. Well played tonight, Alice, and we'll see you during those ODIs. Enjoy the fruits of your labour as well. So England go to lift a trophy, actually. They've won the T20 series, so they get the opportunity for a piece of silverware, and it's those little symbolisms that all add to the picture.
Yeah, well, Australia got to lift quite an impressive trophy when they won the Test match. That is really hard to do, win Test matches, but they had 5 days this time and they had a stunning victory. Well, England should enjoy this victory. It's a series within a series. They've played beautifully, they've played well under pressure, and they've really taken it up to Australia. Forced Australia to now win 2 from the 3 ODIs to actually win the Ashes. Of course, if they win 1, they retain, but Australia will desperately want to win this Ashes series.
We will be hearing from Elisa Healy shortly. She's just speaking in the post-play presentation. She's concluded that and is wandering over to join us in her keeping pads. And Elisa, reflections at the end of that.
Ouch, we lost. Yeah, look, we just weren't able to put 3 complete performances together in this format. And like I said, it's T20 cricket. When you're not in your best nick, teams can pounce upon you, and England have done just that tonight in particular.
Where do you feel that the areas where you weren't quite at it tonight?
Oh, look, I think England just played really brave cricket. They came out to bat and they took their opportunities with any width. They really capitalised on that, and then they chanced their arm a little bit, and it paid off for them. I think we haven't been as brave with the bat for a little while, and probably we felt a little bit short coming off. So, yeah, look, there's little areas I think we can capitalise on, but I think just adapting to conditions, we probably could have done better.
Georgia Warren bowled late in this game. Any reflection on perhaps being able to use her earlier? She performed beautifully.
Yeah, she did. I mean, it's a hard balance, right? When they're going really well, do you want to expose your leggy to some batters that are flying? So it's a tough one, but she did bowl beautifully at the end and almost kept us in the fixture a little extra over. So, look, it's great signs for us leading into the one-day formats. I mean, our leg spinners play a key role in that department, so for her to get a little look in at the end there is good signs.
All great runs come to an end. 6 years since the bilateral series loss, and look, it's going to be painful, of course it is, but it is going to inspire your team. I've got no doubt about that.
I hope so. I mean, I said it at the start of the game, I think the loss the other night was a little bit of a kick up the bum for us, and if that wasn't, then this one most certainly is. And yeah, it's disappointing to do it the way that we did. I think we just were playing some timid cricket, which is unusual for our group over the last sort of 6 or 7 years. So look, we've got a few days to reflect and obviously turn that around, and the one-day format's one that we absolutely love, and hopefully we can play some good cricket.
Elisa, you've played in front of massive crowds before, high-pressure situations. What's the difference playing in front of a packed Lords or a packed Edgbaston with a Pommy crowd?
It was good fun, to be honest with you. I mean, I came to the Lords Test match here, and I've never seen a more diverse crowd at a Lords fixture here before, and I think that's the beauty of women's cricket. People want to come to watch it, and lots of people from lots of different walks of life, which is awesome. So, unfortunately, we didn't come out with a result, but I mean, playing in front of 60,000 people we already have is really special, and long may it continue over here. And the way that England are playing, I think they deserve to get the people out here to watch.
Have you got a bit of a message to prove, a point to prove going into the ODIs?
I don't think we have a point to prove. I mean, we are a really good side. We still are a really good side. We just haven't quite been there as much as we would have liked. So no point to prove. I think we've just got to come out and go back to what's been working really well for us, and that's playing really good hard cricket and competing. And I think we're going to need to do that in the one days to win the series.
Elisa, many thanks for your time. We'll see you during the ODIs, and thank you for joining us here on Test Match Special. The England team are celebrating. They're very happy. They've got their hands on a trophy, albeit it is only a part of the overall package, if you like, of the Women's Ashes series, but that is still up for grabs, Alex Blackwell. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure we necessarily thought we'd be in this position. Really interesting there. She was clearly hurting that.
I think she was hurting a lot. It's a massive occasion. I know Elisa's played all around the world and, World Cup finals, etc. But to play at Lords and to come away with a win, a series win, and to retain the Ashes, she would have desperately hoped for that. But as all of the fans here and all the spectators, they'll be buoyed by the fact that we go into the ODIs of this multi-format Ashes with the Ashes still on the line. I think it's going to be fascinating. It's a longer format. I think England are probably at their best in the T20s, so that played into their hands, the fact that it came immediately after the Test match loss. They've had to fight for it, and they should celebrate tonight's victory.
Timid. That's how Elisa Healy described Australia's approach. That surprises me, because for a side with such success, you'd have thought it would be second nature to be a little more positive.
Look, I think, this is the first time all bar 3 of the players had played at Lord's. So, I think it's important to recognise the adjustment in the conditions. I think Australia didn't adjust as well or as quickly as they need to when it's a T20 game. Sent into bat. Look, I think it was a good toss to win, with the conditions improving and the rain affecting and shortening this match. But, look, it's a close game. I think Australia are much better than what they showed tonight, and makes this one-day series so important to watch.
Still plenty of fans in the ground, but that is where we will leave it here on 5 Sports Extra. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, the coverage of the Women's Ashes will continue Wednesday, 12:45. We'll be there in Bristol, ready to see what the next chapter of this fascinating series provides for us. England, as a reminder, they still have to win every single game, or if there was a draw, thanks to the weather, or even a tie, and 2 victories, that would be enough for them. But the series remains alive, and as the England players head up through the long room to celebrate a remarkable series victory, they can reflect on a quite spectacular few days, not just for them as a side, but also the women's game in this country, with over 60,000 supporters coming along to watch the Series T20s. Sold out at every ODI as well, so Bristol, Southampton and Taunton will be packed full, and can't wait to bring those games to you. As I say, 12:45 on Wednesday is when we bring you the first of those one-day internationals.